right, all right. What's up? It's your boy Jack Bravo on the Righteous Edge. We just doing a couple sound checks and stuff like that, but we are back at it. And so I was talking about something, and it was that whenever there's a beautiful woman that comes into conservative spaces, men tend to lose their minds. And people tend to be like, wow, a girl saying something smart. Let's listen to her. And you would think this is jealousy that it's coming off me. That I'm like, oh man, beautiful women are getting more. Let's check my mic. Beautiful women are getting more attention than me. I'm mad. No, that's not the problem. My problem is that we don't properly vet anybody to check their background to see if they're really truly a believer of conservative ethics. Do they believe in Christian principles, traditional values? Because if you don't believe that, why are we allowing you as a spokesperson to tell other people what they should be believing? If you're a conservative spokesperson, we should not allow you up there if you have a terrible background. This is why I have a problem with Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern slept with Destiny, allegedly, cheated on her husband, allegedly, made false accusations against Andrew Tate, allegedly. All these different things, and we just let her up there speaking again at the Daily Wire. She get to talk with Jeremy Boring. This is my problem. Why would we even care what a person like that has to say? We shouldn't listen to a person like that. But yet, if she has the slightest bit of attraction, she's a female, and she says something conservative, conservatives jump out the window and they're like, wow, our next new queen. Our new queen, guys. Everybody gather around and listen. And my problem is this. There's plenty of dudes, such as myself, who you could be platforming, who have good takes, who are willing to stand on what they believe. But yet we're so thirsty to appeal to a bunch of women who don't care what you think or don't have any intelligent thought. We'll just throw anybody up there because we know the businesses on the business side, they know there's money in it. The women on the women's side, they don't care. It's like, oh, somebody looks like me. I'll listen. And so they end up getting a bunch of OnlyFans 304s. They ended up getting a bunch of women of the night, verbal and physical prostitutes. They'll say anything for money and they'll do anything for money. And then we wonder why, oh man, we just can't seem to understand why our platforms, they don't retain anything. The Daily Wire is failing right now because they have a lot of stupid decisions they've made, especially with the women's side. Stop trying to appeal to a younger demographic of women who don't care what you think. And then you have this young woman who we're going to cover. Her name is Savannah Cannon. A lot of people think that conservatives are jealous of her because she's pretty. That's not the case. That's not the case. Let's watch a couple videos of her and see if what she says is credible. And not just what she says, but who she is. And I think I found a video that I have not seen anybody go into detail about. I think I found a video no one was going into a detail about, but it kind of exposes what's been going on here. Can we pull up that first video, Mr. Producer? Here we go.
I actually understand why liberals don't like the word king now, because they don't like think king, work king, making sense, fact checking, makes sense, because they can't do any of that shit. You know what? I actually understand why liberals don't like the word king now, because they don't like think king, work king, making sense, fact checking, makes sense, because they can't do any of that shit.
Oh, so what a great take, okay? Let's play her next one. Oh, it's not, it should all be in the same, what happened? Yeah, they all were on the same. Where? Okay, cool.
Liberal is short for liberate yourself from logic. So the first thing you need to do is liberate yourself from any logical thought possible. That's why there's a lot of women that are normally liberal, because they do not use logic. They naturally gravitate towards being a liberal because the main thing that you desire as a liberal is you want other people to do the work and you want the benefits. Again, that's why a lot of women are liberals. Does this make sense? Any questions? So
Have y'all noticed? You noticed something about how she's sitting? Anybody notice what she's doing here?
Oh, it's pretty obvious, Jack.
What she's doing? What do you think she's doing, Mr. Producer?
She's trying to attract men.
Yes. How is she sitting? Can you explain
Yeah.
this for me?
Well, I can show you. She's
Right.
sitting there, and you can kind of see some stuff through her yoga pants there.
Right.
Yep.
And then has she ever done a video without any tight form fitting stuff?
I don't think so.
Okay. I wonder why she's gaining so much popularity.
Gee, I wonder.
She got like an American flag in the background. She's sitting with her
Yep.
skin tight yoga
Yep.
pants and her skin tight top.
Mhm.
And every time she sit, and I pointed this out before, they sit this way with their legs all up in the camera. They could be close. See how I'm viewed right now, with my shoulders up. They could be doing that, but they have nothing intelligent to say. So they want you to focus on their bodies. Play the next video. No, is that the next one? Or is it the one after? Yeah, okay, we'll play it. This one is very, very telling. I wonder if this is true. If this is true, then everybody needs to not play this game with her anymore.
people don't like you, it's usually not for no reason, actually.
You gotta rewind it, do the scroll up, scroll down.
It's always white people need to stop being racist. It's never minorities need to be more likable. If white people don't like you, it's usually not for no reason, actually. It's not because of the color of your skin. And if you come to white countries, it is not white people's responsibility to accept you the way you are.
No change up, no curveball, nothing but fucking grift. Here's another base take you should copy verbatim. Being modest is good. Being an OF transplant grifter with your cooter out, reciting other people's opinions for attention, is not good. And it's just as important we deport women from politics as it is we deport immigrants to their home country, if not more. The most trad thing I can do, the most based move I could make, is to delete my account and get my lunchbox out of the limelight. If you're catching my drift, you either die based or you live long enough to see your takes recycled by e-thoughts.
It's always white people need to stop being racist. It's never minorities need to be more likable. If white people don't like you, it's usually not for no.
So she stole his whole flow, line for line, word for word. How in the world we allow that? So we have a personality who's coming up here saying, I'm conservative. I just happen to be a pretty OF girl, and I have all these conservative takes. She stole what that man said line for line, and there's idiots out there like, wow, she's really based, dude. Yeah, she's on OF, but she's really cool, and she's all about freedom, and she's a conservative with traditional values, man. I'm gonna go subscribe to her OF, dude. You big dummy. How did you fall for this? Is somebody out there falling for this right now? This is my problem, dude. You cannot have somebody out there stealing somebody's word for word, line for line ideology, which lets you know something. It lets you know she doesn't even believe what she's saying, because you would never steal somebody's thoughts word for word and still say, I believe everything I'm saying. No, she found some other conservatives' ideology and she found their channel And she said, okay, I like this dude's takes. He gets a decent amount of views. I'm going to get quadruple those amount of views just for being a female. And I'm going to steal that ideology because I know there's a bunch of conservative, lonely men who are going to fall for it. And some of these idiots fail for it. I hate that it happens like that, but it is. And she's getting all types of popularity. Louder with Crowder just did a video on her. And look at the stuff look at what she's wearing and look at what she's saying. Nothing extravagant when it comes to what she's saying. It's no based takes here. She's just a regular old E-Thought 304 who stole somebody else's words, stole somebody else's beliefs. Don't fall for this crap, man. So the next thing I want to go on before we get to the main thing, which is the debate, is we can go to that next video, which is the Fauci being checked here. I want y'all to see this. This is insane.
Rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs, they know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich while people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich. And not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
You remember Greg Folkers? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Your chief of staff is the answer. Do you remember Patricia Conrad? Who was that?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
She was your personal assistant. And what were these individuals doing in the depth of the pandemic in November of 2020 when millions of Americans were suffering from COVID? What were they doing? I tell you what they're doing. Folkers was on your behalf soliciting and gathering information for a cash award. Let's look at it. We've got his email right here, right over my shoulder. Volker says, I'm working on this nomination for the Dan David Award for Fauci. We need to beef up the COVID part. Do you have language in the can that you could share that delineates how we responded in new ways to COVID? He sends this to multiple federal employees. What was the Dan David Award? Do you remember, Doc?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
It was a $900,000 cash award. $900,000 cash award. And he got it because he used federal employees to get it. And this wasn't the only award, was it, Dr. Fauci? In fact, you applied for and received at least 8 other federal cash prizes on federal time using federal employees and federal resources. Here they are over my shoulder. Besides the Dan David Award, you've got the Partnership for Public Service, you've got the Adelson Prize, you've got the Smithsonian Award, you've got the National Academy of Medicine's Award, you've got the CDC Foundation. In fact, you turned your staff into a full-time application machine. You actually wrote to people and said, do you think maybe I qualify? And you got cash for all of this. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 employees, was it? In fact, you used 8 separate federal employees on federal time using federal resources to solicit cash awards. Isn't that true?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Here they are right over my shoulder. Here's all of them. The people that you use, federal employees, so that you could go and get cash money And the most hilarious part is that you weren't content to even dragoon them into applying for all of these cash awards. You then had them go out to the ethics agencies and ethics watchdogs and demand that you be able to get the money. That's right. We've got it in your emails. Your staff and employees on federal time, using federal resources, being paid with federal dollars, are soliciting cash for you, and then they're turning around and saying to the agency, we don't want just an answer, we want to get to yes, because Fauci wants the money. He wants it. We want to get to yes, and yes takes time. This is your chief of staff again, using federal email to pressure the agency's own ethics people so that you could get money, so that you could get rich. And it violated the law, didn't it, Dr. Fauci? Didn't it? It violated the law, didn't it? It is a question. You can answer. Go ahead.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Federal law, as you very well know, prohibits the solicitation of cash awards or other personal benefits for federal employees. And it certainly prohibits using your own employees to do this. 5 CFR section 2635-205B. It says it right there in black and white. You cannot use federal resources, federal dollars, federal employees, federal offices, federal email, federal time to solicit cash awards, and you did all of it. And the worst part is, thousands of people were dying while you were doing it. Yep. You were supposed to be the nation's doctor, and you're playing one on TV, but this is what you were doing with your time. Isn't that true?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Yeah, I can see why. I can certainly see why. You know what I can't quite figure out is that why you were so obsessed with it, because you're already rich. I mean, and your scheme worked here. I mean, your net worth now is north of $12 million. You got over $1 million in cash awards during COVID, during a 12-month, 24-month span during COVID. Yeah, well, silence is admission. And here's the real thing. At the end of the day, it wasn't just about the money, really, was it? It was really about a power trip. I mean, through all of this, you want to be the most famous scientist in the world. You were so focused on getting every award and every drop of cash that you could, all because you wanted to be on TV. You wanted to be the sun god of science. You wanted to be the guy who was in charge of it all. You wanted to lambast Trump. You wanted to make sure that nobody else stole your spotlight. You wanted to be the guy. You had time to sit for InStyle magazine. Here's what you were doing with your time. You could sit for InStyle magazine, but you can't answer questions for the American people. Nope. You could sit for InStyle magazine, but you're here taking the fifth. You could sit for InStyle magazine and get $1 million in cash awards. But now the cat's got your tongue. I bet he does. I tell you what, here's my conclusion from all of this. This was really all about you the whole time. Somewhere along the way, you lost your way. You may have been a good public servant at one time, I don't know. But I can tell you from reading your emails now, from looking at what you did, how you used your employees, somewhere along the line, it became all about you. You became a narcissist and a megalomaniac and a liar. And you've lied to the American people, and you've lied to this body. And you've disgraced your profession by doing it. You called yourself the most famous scientist in the world. You've done more to harm science than anybody in my lifetime. And I hope you'll go home and write that in your diary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dude is a piece of absolute trash. That's Dr. Fauci. So the thing I hate about this is not only that dude lied to the American people, it's not enough that you lied and you had to get all the fame and you did it while people were dying, but you got to go and steal American taxpayer money on top of that? You were stealing money from the American people. And here's the other thing. This should anger you even more. Why did Joe Biden pardon him completely? He pardoned him. So now the Republicans are trying to go back and see if we can sift through the new information we found to hold him accountable for something. But keep in mind, he's been pardoned for most of this. Biden did that. You know all these idiots like Brian Shapiro who want to talk about how evil Trump did? How many people died at the hands of Dr. Fauci because of misinformation, because he hid information? He acted like COVID was something that it wasn't. He knew way more than he let on. And you can see that in his diaries. And he misled the American people for financial gain. He gained millions because of what happened at that time. And nobody calls him or Joe Biden evil for pardoning that guy? That's insane to me. He's a traitor to the American people, and he should be treated as a traitor. What they used to do to traitors in the old days. That's how he should be treated. And I really do believe that. It was people who didn't even get to see their grandmother or their children or their wife, and they passed away in the hospital alone because of what this man pushed. So, you know what? Play that other video because this is what he was doing during that whole hearing. You could probably scroll and scroll back.
Plead the fifth. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything you say, fifth. Go ahead, ask me a question. Did you? Fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything you say, fifth. Go ahead, ask me a question. Did you?
It's funny, but it's not funny because dude did that to the American people, knowing that people have questions. If anything the American people have questions about, it is what happened during the time period of COVID. We still have not truly healed from that. And people are angry, man. I know some people who said if they ever see him, they would go upside his head for what their family went through. I know some people, I don't want to get into personal stuff, but here's the thing. What he did was completely evil, and then stealing money on top of that, dude. How greedy and evil can you get? So I want people to think about that. Next time you think of voting for Democrat, that's what you're voting for. Because it wasn't Trump who pardoned him. It was Biden. So let's get right into our next topic, which is the debate that I thought was really good. I've covered both of these people on my channel before, Rachel Wilson and Not So Erudite. Not So Erudite, we covered her in the video, The Odd Beliefs of Not So Erudite, and I still stand by that. That video was a while ago. But the thing about it is, she hasn't changed much. Rachel Wilson is still a beast when it comes to debating. Not So Erudite, I don't know, man. It seems to me like she was tweaking off something. It seemed to me like she was on something this debate. Now, I'm not saying she didn't make some coherent thoughts. She never makes coherent thoughts. Let's just be honest. But it just seemed fidgety and agitated and a little bit. You'll have to see when we get there. So let's just start off the debate, and we're going to rate this. We're going to rate their points, and we're going to make a judgment as to who we think won at the end.
We'll jump into the open dialogue. We'll let this be as organic as you guys would like.
Sure.
So we'll let you take it from here. I'll only jump in if it gets really crazy.
Okay, so I'm actually very curious about your relationship to feminism. Like, what got you interested in feminism, and specifically concerns about feminism and its impacts on society? Like, what personally in your life or ideologically?
Well, that was a beautiful opening, and I appreciate all the sentiments therein, but none of this addresses the fact that we are about to fall off a demographic cliff that will make all of these beautiful, lofty sentiments mean absolutely nothing. Because as you addressed in your opening, it's not a coincidence that feminism did not exist until the industrial and technological revolutions. You need technology and first world living standards to have this idea that we can just push women into the workforce, everyone can follow their dreams and do what their heart tells them to do, and everybody should have choices and all that sort of thing. But if we don't have enough men to run this first world standard of living, we will be like the only places in the world that are still below replacement birth rates, which would be like Africa, Pakistan, that's where we're going to be if we don't solve the demographic problem. So as much as I would love to talk about how we feel and what got us into this, I'm concerned by the fact that I like air conditioning. I live in Texas, okay? I like power, I like infrastructure, and we won't have that if women don't start producing the next generation of workers who can maintain the standard that allows women to even think about whether they want to have babies or become doctors.
Okay, yeah, if you want to just do the boys' way, we can just do the boys' way.
I don't think it's inherently male to have concerns about the rational, real-world implications of what's happening with feminism.
It's a joke.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I don't.
Okay, so let's maybe get into the starting point then for you. So at what point, what's the period you think is most prolific for feminism really changing the she economy that you described? Is there a window of time?
Would be the 1970s.
What happened in the 1970s?
I'm glad you asked.
You're so welcome. We're tag teaming this, really.
What happened in the 70s was we had just been through the Vietnam War, which was very unpopular and extremely expensive, and the U.S. Treasury needed more income tax coming in. And this was at the exact same time that the Rockefellers and the Fords created gender studies. They passed Title IX and started handing out college scholarships and funding for women to go to college like candy, and we saw over 20% increase in females in the workforce just in that decade alone. By the 90s, women were on par with men. And what happened at the same time as that is Roe v. Wade and the birth control pill. So women started
and the gold standard getting removed. That one's kind of important too.
What's that?
Well, the gold standard got removed as well.
Sure. I don't.
Well, that's economically super important, right?
It's important, but
What
I
do you
don't
mean
think
it's important? We fundamentally changed our relationship from the gold standard, the petrodollar, under Nixon in 1971.
But that's not why women joined the economy. That's
But that
not why
might
women
explain economic
started.
changes, no?
No, it doesn't.
The gold standard.
Because what you're not understanding is it's about the birth rate. It's not that women working is a problem if they were still having 2.2 or 2.5 babies per woman. But when you tell women, hey, spend all your fertile years going to college and starting a career and don't even think about settling down and having kids until you're 31, which is the average age that a woman is having her first.
I got to give a shout out to my boy, Cordero. Corey, what's up, man? I sent him a message and he's here, so I got to give him a shout out. All right, you can play it. That's all. That's it.
First child now, that's a serious problem, and we have historical examples of countries who've gone through this. Russia is a great one. They made abortion legal and paid for in state hospitals under Lenin, and it was so bad, like the demographic cliff was so bad for Russia that by the time Stalin came to power, he had to roll all of that back. But because they were communists, they wanted to push women into the workforce. You need workers to have communism. Women needed to be working. And they tried to do women workers and pronatalism at the same time. It did not work. They've never recovered
all
their
economies
birth
need
rate.
workers, right? The most important piece of basically capital investment
Sure.
is human
Which
human
is why
capital.
you could also look at South Korea, which is a very capitalist Western-style economy, but has also been taken over by feminism, and they have 0.7 births per woman right now. There's not going to be a South Korea in the next 20 or 30 years if they don't turn it around.
I'm curious, what's the number one correlate to declining birth rates in a nation?
Women's access to higher education.
Correct. Yes, women's access. It's
You know
actually
what?
everyone's access
Pause
to
that.
higher education.
You're going to see that Not So Erudite does this a lot. She does this thing where they call it pop quiz. She'll just ask you a question, and then what happens is if you don't know that answer to the direct question she asked, she will be like, I win, because you don't know. And she was fully not expecting her to answer that question. And she does this a lot. You'll see it a lot. We can play it.
So I'm curious, would you consider Saudi Arabia particularly feminist?
Not particularly feminist,
Qatar?
no. But no.
Okay, so the Gulf states also have declining birth rates, but feminism isn't causing that. What's happening there?
Because they've started.
Saudi Arabia, famous
Yes.
for feminizing. Qatar, famous for feminizing.
They have started letting women work. They've started allowing things like birth
Their
control.
birth rate's
It's
been
more
declining
subtle.
for a long time. Actually, it's below replacement now.
Yes, everybody in first world economies where there's urbanization, industrialization, as I explained, that's what enables feminism.
So isn't it urbanization that we're blaming here? Because I feel like there's an
not
interesting
until
thing.
you push women into the workforce and they stop having kids. Again, if women were working as nurses and still having 2.5 kids per woman, I would have no problem with it. But Nothing you're addressing tells me what we're going to do about this.
Well, nothing you're pointing
how is
to
your-
says it all falls at the feet of feminism, right? What you're pointing
Why
to
did
right
the women
now,
stop having babies?
because of modernization through increased education. Saudi
Yeah,
Arabia,
because they're-
I'm so sorry. As much as you want to insist Saudi Arabia is feminist, it's certainly not. In fact, do you know why women in Saudi Arabia are pushed into education? It increases their dowry value. That's why. Because it's like
That sounds like an Islam problem.
Well, Victoria, England did this as well, where essentially they view proof of education as good genetic stock, so it makes that wife a more valuable woman. So
Right,
I
but
don't know what's
nobody had a
feminist
birth
about
rate
that.
crisis in Victorian England.
Well, the thing that you have to disentangle here is why is Saudi Arabia having the same problems that you're falling at the feet of feminism? And I'm saying it looks more like modernization might be the problem here. And Saudi Arabia certainly has both modernization, but it certainly doesn't have feminism. So you're going to have to answer
the
the Qatar
CDC
Gulf
and the
problem.
United Nations both
Pause
say
that,
that the main correlate.
So I just looked this up. Changes over the last, yes, Saudi Arabia today is significantly more liberal on women's rights and social freedoms than it was 50 years ago, which means they're getting more and more feminist, more and more liberal. Though it has it's still highly conservative and authoritarian. It's a highly conservative and authoritarian state with major gender inequalities and tight political control. So it's still Saudi Arabia. But have they got more liberal? Yes. Over the past 5 decades, Saudi women have gone from very limited public roles to much broader participation in education, work, and public life. That's exactly what she's saying. They work more than they used to. Key milestones including opening public schools for girls in 1960, expanding higher education in 1970s to 1990s, and a surge of reforms from the 2015 onward with a vision for 2030. Since 2015, women gained the right to vote and run municipal elections, enter sports stadiums, access to government services without male guardians' consent. Between 2017 and 2019, they were allowed to drive, travel abroad, and obtain passports without male guardianship. And they received stronger protection against workforce discrimination and harassment. So they are entering the workforce more. You just, because I named a Muslim country, then that just takes away your whole argument. No, they're still being affected by liberalism. They're still being affected by feminism. You can play it.
For declining birth rates is sending women to college and sending them to work.
I didn't
And
disagree with that.
As a mother
That's just not
of 5,
feminism.
As a mother of
necessarily.
5, you cannot have more than maybe one child and work full time because you have to outsource motherhood to daycare, which
Why?
is expensive. What do you mean, why?
Why do we have the runaway cost issues in America?
Runaway what?
Cost issues in America.
It's not runaway cost issues. It's the fact
not?
that
It's not affordable right now. It's
you
tougher.
can't make daycare cheap enough for it to offset the cost of a woman working full time. That's math. How are you
typically
going
you
to make daycare cheap enough that a woman can have 5 babies and work a full-time job? And why would you want that?
Well,
Why don't we want mothers? Any mothers here love having to send their kids to be raised by someone else all day? Do you
well,
guys
the question
like that?
again, you can narrativize, but the question I'm actually trying to pose you and get an answer to is what changed in the 70s, as you claim, where women started becoming dual income earners? What changed in families? What was going on? And you're like, the gold standard.
Are you asking
that doesn't
what?
matter.
No, I'm telling you exactly what happened, and this is not me. This is the U.S. Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Commerce. All the sources in my slides say that in the 70s, the reason was because we had a huge income tax deficit because of the Vietnam War. At the same time that they had passed birth control legislation making it legal, and not only that, making it free and cheap and socially acceptable. We had Roe v. Wade, now everybody can get an abortion. Right. And at the same time, you start pushing through the culture through a massive propaganda campaign, through things like, remember the Stepford Wives movies, remember the Mary Tyler Moore show? The 70s were just saturated with girl boss empowerment stuff. And I was born in 1980 with She-Ra and Madonna and, telling women that motherhood is a ball and chain, that the smart girls go to college and have their own money and they don't need a man. So you've got this cultural propaganda campaign. You've got government money subsidizing college, which is why it's so expensive, by the way. And then you've got birth control and abortion. Okay. So the trend becomes go get your bag, go get your career. Men are icky and bad. They're going to abuse you. Children are a ball and chain that are going to hold you back. You need to go to work.
Sure.
And that's
So-
what women do. They
Still haven't gotten an answer to the Gulf states. Seems like that one is just
still
like
haven't gotten an answer to
mysterious
how you're going to do
Islamic-
feminism
Oh my
with no
gosh.
more babies.
Rachel,
You
you have to let me-
asked her why she brought up what happened in the 1970s. What happened in the 1970s to get us to where we are now? What happened in the 1970s that affects our economy to where women have to go to work? You asked her that, and then she answered it, and then you shifted back to something she had already answered before. This is a shifty tactic, dude. Why are you doing you well, we know why you're doing it. Because you know you're gonna lose this debate if you don't play these type of games. All right.
talk for us to have a conversation, right? I'm letting you speak. Give me some space to speak as well, right? So let's talk a little bit about the 70s.
Go ahead, Kyla.
Oh, if you want Rachel to just monologue, I can just sit here if you want. But if you want the debate and show, I have to participate too. So let's talk a little bit about the 70s. So the 70s is where, what did you say, what percentage increase?
It was something over 20%.
Until 20%, so 70s to what? What was the 20% point? Was it the 90s, 2000s?
No, just in the 70s alone, I believe it went up. Female labor force participation went way up in the 70s. It was the biggest jump, and then it continued in the 80s and 90s, and now we have about equal numbers.
I'm going to show you a beautiful thing that we can do in the world, okay? This is a graph. This is a very, very wonderful graph that makes your point look true. This is your point, okay? So we've got 1975, we've got 39%. It's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, okay? You're gonna love it. And by 1990s, we have that almost 20% jump to 58%. And look how steep that looks. Very spooky, spooky graph. The issue with cherry-picked data is that if you zoom out and include all data that's relevant, suddenly spooky lines don't look so spooky. In the 70s, nothing magically happened at all, actually. We had a consistent trend of women since the 1950s
Wait a second.
going
okay. So the graph doesn't go like this, it goes like that. It's still going up.
It's right.
She tried to make a point and she does this condescension tone. Dude, like Andrew Wilson said, she is very unlikable, man. She just can't be likable. Oh, I'm going to show you a cute little graph and you think it's so scary. This condescension talk, dude. No one likes that. Just make your point and you're still wrong. You did all that condescending talk and you're still wrong. Go ahead.
To workplace, particularly married women, because unmarried women always participate in the workforce.
Yes.
If you actually want a spooky graph with a big jump, the major points when women entered the workforce at astronomical numbers, was a 10% leap in like 4 years, is this graph. It was World War II. This is the only notable moment. If you'll notice on this graph, it's all the same trend line. So if you're gonna blame everything
Wait a minute.
hold on, let me finish my thought, then you can attack it. If you're gonna blame everything from 1970s forward, you're gonna have a tough time because the data shows that it's the identical trend since the 1940s. And if you zoom out 200 years, you get this graph, which is a U. So once you actually look at the whole comprehensive story, your narrative falls apart really quickly because nothing remarkable happened in the 1970s except for one thing, and I'm curious if you know what actually happened in the 1970s.
Well, instead of playing pop quiz Kyla, first of all, here's my
So good.
It's just your typical debate move.
I just want to be clear. If you don't know
what do you
words,
think happened to this? What do
I'll
you
let you
think
finish,
about
sorry.
this? What happened here? Okay,
I just want to be very clear before
I
we get
thought
to the
we were
personal.
going to take turns.
Well, if we're going to get to the personal insults, I'm just going to quickly respond.
I didn't insult you. I just pointed
Pop
out that
quiz
your
Kyla.
strategy
A
is to
compliment.
pop
Notorious
quiz your
compliment.
opponent. It's something you do in every debate.
So thank you. The front loading of saying my opponent Kyla will just happen to know way more
When you're
technological
done being offended, I'll
information and
respond
knowledge
to the
than
actual
me.
point.
I mean,
know
I'll
you
take
wanted
it.
to have a girl debate, but I would like to stick
No,
to
you said the boy
actual
debate.
argument.
So here we are, baby girl. You want the boy debate? We're here.
Yeah, we're doing
Trying to
it.
buy some
What
time
happened?
there.
So what happened in the 1970s? Again, that's so magical.
What happened after World War II?
What happened
to all
after
those
World War
women
II?
who went to work?
They
What
s-
did they do?
it
Did
went
they go
down-
back home?
You ask a question.
Yes,
5%.
they did.
Well,
They went back
5%,
home.
and then look, the same line of best fit from before World War II. Because you know what made women go back into workplace? access to new technologies that made it easier to go back to the workplace.
Of course.
That's what made them go back.
You haven't heard me say this the 3 times I've heard it. Industrialization and technology allowed for this. Yes, obviously.
But we want to throw it at the feet of
address my
feminism.
point. That doesn't address the point of what you're going to do about the demographic cliff we're about to fall off of.
We can
Do
get
you
there.
understand how you can possibly have
This is a
feminism in
crazy
a
pivot.
world? If you're going to keep interrupting me,
I'll write
I'll
it
just
down.
ask for time.
I'll ask my question after
Because
you're done.
if I interrupt you, it's a big problem. But apparently, I can't speak. I need to participate in order for this to be a conversation, Kyla.
Ideally, yeah.
So
when you monologue for 5 minutes straight, yeah, typically I need to be able to respond back.
We don't have to spend 40 minutes on what happened in this decade or why women worked. The point
You
of
certainly don't want to.
Again,
Yes.
the point of everything
It's
we're
hard for your
talking about
narrative.
here is that, yes, thanks, James. Nothing you're saying addresses the fact that we are about to have a collapse of our first world standard of living. This economy in the West, and it's ubiquitous across all Western nations. In fact, it's so congruent across all of them that it's kind of crazy. Like Statistics Canada has the same GDP numbers that the United States has, that Australia has, that Western Europe has, which is when you push women to go to college and have careers and have their own money and be financially independent, they listen and they do that. And they say, if that's what's expected, I'm not going to have kids. Now, again, we can go back and prove this is what happened in Russia, and it didn't matter how many pro-natalist campaigns they had. Women said, if I got to work full time, I can't have 3 or 4 kids. It doesn't work. You look at South Korea, same thing. They don't have communism. They don't have pro-natalism. It's a capitalist Western-style economy, and they can't even reproduce the Korean woman.
Okay.
It's a serious
what
problem
Paul's at.
that arguing over the gold.
This is true, and the thing that's so scary about this is we can debate forever about where feminism started and how much it affected, but the reality that Rachel Wilson is talking about is a problem that if we don't solve, we will all die. If we do not figure out how to fix the problem of we don't have enough children to take care of our older generations, we don't have enough children that are even paying into the system to get anything out of the system, we don't have enough children to rebuild and configure and uphold the infrastructure. That's a big problem, man. We don't have enough. And so you can talk about, oh, it didn't start here and it started there and it started because of this. What are we going to do about the problem that's coming? And feminism just loves to act like the horizon is so bright in the future, but what about the problems that come from us adopting the secular ideology? No one ever talks about that. You can pull it.
Old standard or the 70s or what, or women should have choices. First of all, they've always had choices. Second of all,
just less.
If you don't address this problem, you can kiss feminism goodbye. Yep. You won't have it anymore. It won't exist.
There's this really famous, actually you introduced me to this researcher, Joseph Miller, because you cite him a few times. There's a great conversation that the anti-suffragettes had where they insisted that, oh, by God, if the feminists, if all this happens, the world is going to collapse. People have been insisting that the world is going to collapse in the next 10 years. I mean, they're climate people as well were insisting that we were going to die in the next 10 years as well. It's just fear-mongering that's not typically based in reality. Now, I know you want to run away from counter information that is disconfirming of your narrative, but you still need to deal with the Gulf states, right? Qatar having declining birth rate. It's not feminism.
Is
it's
that a first world
modernization.
country you want to live in?
No, I want to live here, which has feminism and a booming GDP and one of the best countries on the earth. That's why I'm here.
Well, what are we going to do? Yeah, it's great. It's great right now, but your field of psychology that you got your degree in is so oversaturated. We have, and it's almost all women. It's like 88% women.
Not going to deal with the Gulfs, though. We're just going to run from that one. I'll just come back to it. It's fine. I'll write it down.
You have to hear.
I'll write it down. It's okay, James. I'll write it down.
Adderall.
Good one.
It doesn't address the problem that you have, which is the paradox of pushing women into work and telling them to be career women like you, and then they don't have children. How are you going to perpetuate the next generation? Do you realize that the complex systems first world economies rely on can only suffer about a 5% loss of skilled male workers. And right now in this country and all across the West, we have all of the Gen X and Boomer men who know how to run complex water sewage treatment centers, keep the power grid up and running. Like, these are highly skilled things. You can't just get someone from Pakistan, put them in a 6-week course or whatever, and make them a power lineman. You can't do that. These men are not replaceable. We have to start having babies, or you're going to have short-term boom. That's what we've got now, at the expense of long-term stability. And it's not fear-mongering, it's math.
It's true.
The World Health Organization, the UN, and Elon Musk talk about it all the time. Like, hey, we're already seeing supply chain shortages. We're already seeing problems in keeping up the infrastructure. Trump ran on the fact that most Western nations, like including the US, have shit infrastructure. We have water lines in LA that are 100 years old, blowing up all over the place. What, 6 or 7 of them in the last 2 weeks?
Okay, we have to do like a timer at this point. I don't even.
So
if you want to, I want to talk to you. And if we want to talk to each other, we have to go point by point. Like, if you monologue at me for 5 minutes straight with multiple points, they're all valid points, and I want to talk to you about all of them.
I just have one question. How are you going to solve the birth rate crisis?
Answer mine first. How
There's
do you
no
do that?
future without
How
more
do you
people.
how do you reconcile the fact that you're claiming in the 1970s feminism infused a bunch of women to the workplace, but we actually see the largest boom of women? Hold on, I'm not done.
I'll just
Nicole,
grant
I'm not
it.
done.
It
The
doesn't even
largest
matter for my
boom,
argument.
the largest boom of women entering the workplace is right before the golden age of capitalism in America. Right? That's what we see when the American currency becomes the gold world reserve currency. So if you want to blame it at the 1970s, my question to you again is, what actually magically happened? Because based on all of the actual data, nothing transformative happened. Manufacturing was starting to die by the 1950s, right? We have the Triffin dilemma, which is a much better understanding of, if you don't know the word, just ask, just saying, okay? The Triffin dilemma is a huge issue that causes massive trade deficits for America, and it causes an issue where people are always gonna wanna invest in America because, frankly, we're the best. We're the best at everything. So again, if you're gonna say it's the 1970s,
I didn't. That's a straw man.
It's
My
not a straw man
argument-
to say
yes.
that you said the 1970s is when this took
Finish,
off and the she economy
and I'll
happened.
tell you, no.
That's not a straw
That was
man.
not in any way a pillar or linchpin of my argument.
So it's the 1950s?
No, birth rates have declined since industrialization.
You're
Since
right, like the 18...
It accelerated.
Wait,
It
isn't that like the 1870s?
I have already...
Maybe you mean those 70s.
Okay, when she's done, then I'll talk.
All right. I do want to make sure there's not too much interrupting. So if you
Let's
want
do a
chance-
game. We both talk for 2 minutes at a time. We'll have timers.
Let's see.
How about that?
So condescending.
I appreciate that, but
Keyboard
I'm
warriors.
okay with keeping it organic as long as there's not too much interrupting.
Mrs. Turner, is it my turn to
Well,
speak? Can I talk, teacher, please?
As a gent, because you're the only person actually being sane right now. If she talks for 7 minutes straight with multiple points,
You the one. I have
well, sure. I just want to let's go
minutes.
point by point.
All right, you guys agree on that? That's progress. All right. You guys
Also,
are both
you're
okay
welcome-
with 2
you're
minutes.
welcome to interrupt
I'm
me, like,
setting
when you
the
need to.
timer. Give me 1 second. And Rachel, you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So the whole you're totally fighting a straw man. You completely made up this idea that my whole argument rests on something fundamental changing in the 70s. I'll just grant everything you said. Agrippa's trilemma, whatever you want.
Good one.
Birth rates have been on the decline since industrialization. I didn't say that no women ever worked before the 70s. I said that's
We've got a comment that
ahead.
I have to read. She got the charts on deck, don't she? I just had to get that one out there. Yeah, she's got the charts on deck.
the point where it really accelerated and took off and became mainstream, totally socially acceptable, the norm. Now, if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's the weird, creepy thing. That's when that changed. Doesn't matter. It started in the 1800s with industrialization, urbanization, and women going to work. Yes, that's when the birth rates began to decline. And the sexual liberation stuff, whether it's no-fault divorce, birth control pills, abortion, the overall thing and the only thing that matters in this argument is what are we going to do about demographics? Because it doesn't matter what they're doing in Saudi Arabia. It doesn't matter when the gold standard happened. It doesn't matter when or how women got into the workforce. We are now in a position where all Western nations are in the exact same boat. that when you shove all the women into the workforce and tell them this is what you need to be doing and focusing on, and you need a 2-income household now to survive, no one has babies. Do you think that that's not going to be a problem?
I think that I think that we absolutely need to incentivize.
Kyla. Just to be clear, I'm going to give you full 2 minutes. If you want to use all of it, you can. Otherwise, you can kick it back to her when you want
Here's
to.
what I'll say. Let's just talk. If I start listing off like a bunch of points, just interrupt me. It's pretty simple.
What?
No,
I don't know, guys. I know conversations are hard for like the
trying to
audience in
change
the
the
room.
rules
That's
again.
how
We're
they
not
can
What's
going
going on?
back. It was your idea to do the 2 minutes.
It
Let's
was
give this a
sardonic.
try.
Sure, I'll take 2 minutes precisely. Sure, we can do that. It's just gonna be a terrible conversation.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, like, Rachel took 1:40 or so, and then she let you go for your 2 minutes. If you want to use a minute,
I want 10 seconds.
This is why she don't want to do that. She knows that she has to interrupt Rachel if she wants a chance. So she's like, well, we got to allow interruptions now, because when Rachel gets her points off and puts it on me where I have to now answer a question, she's going to lose. It's clear she's going to lose. You have to, as a feminist, answer, what are we going to do about the epidemic of people not having children in the future? That is a crucial problem. And if she knows she's going to have 2 minutes of silence if she has to sit here and answer that question. Or she's going to avoid the question entirely. And so that's why she's fighting back on this. She's not dumb, dude. I've always said that Not So Erudite is not dumb. She's just stupid. All right, we can play the video.
Okay. Oh, I know. I'm so fast.
All right, but I'm
It's
going
the
to
Red
kick it
Bull.
over to Rachel to use 2 minutes.
You just said industrialization is when women started going to work. That's false. Industrialization is when women stopped going to work. That's when women workforce participation declined in the 1800s.
What? Okay, so
Hard for your narrative.
when you talk about women working, nobody thinks that working on your family farm or in your family business with your husband and your dad and everyone, nobody thinks, when we say women going to work, we're talking about dad leaves the house in the morning and goes to his place of business, mom leaves her house in the morning, goes to her place of business, and the kids get sent to daycare or public school.
Okay.
That's new. That's post-industrial. Nobody thinks that agrarian pre-industrial society where you're working the farmstead with your husband is women going to work. They were having 7 babies on average before industrialization per woman. That was fine. Even post-industrialization could have been possibly sustainable had we not introduced sexual liberation, sending women to college, delaying the first birth until you're 31. That is doom. It's demographic doom, and you don't have a way out of it, and you don't have an answer for it, which is why you want to talk about anything else.
Yep.
Speaking of wanting to talk about anything else, still haven't gotten an answer to the 1970s question, which again,
I granted it.
You can laugh.
I granted it.
It is a hinge point of your narrative.
It's not.
It
I
is.
granted it.
I
You're
asked you when.
completely
I
right.
asked you
You're
when.
completely right about the 70s. I'm just going to rant, though. You get the whole
order
kit
in
and
the
caboodle,
crowd.
full point for you. Now,
All
what
right,
are you going to do
folks,
about
I need you to,
demographics?
just so the speakers can be heard, I do need you to keep it quiet in the audience. Is Not So Erudite, you have 2 minutes if you want to use it.
Sure.
Otherwise, we kick it back to Rachel for 2 minutes.
No, I'll use my 2 minutes.
Okay.
So the Gulf states, again, so the reason why you're acting like this isn't relative at all is because it's bad for your narrative,
headache
right?
from that.
For example, Japan. Do you think that Japan was like a highly feminist country?
Yes. Actually,
Yes, it's highly modern and industrial. and
Post
women are
1970s?
Women are absolutely expected to work in Japan.
Post
Yeah,
1970s
propose this.
specifically is when that
See, you
feminist
know what?
infusion.
She thinks that she's getting a gotcha, but it's not. Japan is dealing with so much feminism now that there's a culture war between the men and the women, and the men and the women are actually sending meme wars on social media where the women are doing this meme that symbolizes having a little penis. Look it up. And they're using that for feminism. And so anytime you see an anime with a girl doing like this, in Japan, men are going crazy because they take that as a symbol of feminism, and the men are actually freaking out and saying any anime who has that symbol, we're not going to financially support, and we're going to bombard it with so much hatred, they got to take it down off the air. Feminism is really rampant in Japan. She just said that like, oh, you think Japanese is... Yes! It's affecting everywhere in society, so much so that Korea cannot reproduce. It's suffering now. It's like 10 years ahead of us when it comes to the detrimental effects of feminism. Because what happened in a lot of Asian cultures, and trust me, and check me if I'm saying this wrong, a lot of the Asian cultures, they dove headfirst into this work society, into where you work 12 to 16 hours a day to make your family proud, and women have been jumping into that, and the birth rates of places like Japan and Korea have plummeted. They're even more work culture than we are here in America. And so now that that's happening, based on the exact same thing that Rachel Wilson has said, men are like, yo, man, we can't find a wife because all these women are boss babes. This is true. It's happening right now. You can look up on YouTube, you can look up documentaries about this very thing. You can play it. I just thought that was insane that she doesn't know that.
Really came
I don't
out?
know. I'm
Gotta
not
pick a date.
sure.
If your
I'm
whole
not sure
narrative-
exact
If your
timeline
whole-
of Japan.
if we
so
wanna
doesn't
stick-
matter to my argument at all.
If we want to stick with 2
Maybe
minutes.
If your entire narrative,
If you're, Kyla,
Industrial
if you're
Revolution
asking
in,
her
like,
questions,
she
it's
needs
kind
2
of
minutes per question.
it's kind of pushing back the 2 minute to her. Do you want to go with the 2 minutes?
So if I ask her one question, now you're going to give her 2 minutes. That's
This
what we want
is
to do.
your idea, Kyla.
Rachel,
I'm not
Rachel
playing deferred to you, and she accepted your idea of 2 minute back and forth.
James. This is silly. Sure, I guess every question I ask you, you get 2 minutes. That seems ridiculous.
That's
But
what
if that's how you want
happens
to
when you
moderate
ask a
things, go on.
question.
Was it you who asked for 2 minute responses?
Sardonically, yes.
And
Yeah.
Rachel deferred to you and said she's okay with it. So that's what we're doing.
Okay.
If you want,
All right.
if you want, you can say, "Hey, can we do 60-second responses so it's shorter?" But you already brought up the 2 minute response.
Okay,
idea.
let's talk about the 1970s since you're not going to answer the question and your narrative does hinge on it. Your argument is fundamentally this. In the 1970s, in fact, I believe your quote was, in the 1970s, something changed. And it wasn't these various economic factors that we've
That
been
was my
seeing
quote
for the
on
last
Joe
50
Rogan.
Hold on, we have to
years.
give her a chance. Go ahead, Kyla.
I didn't say that here, but I said that on Joe Rogan.
Correct. You also
On.
said it
All
here.
right. Kyla, go ahead, finish your point.
Okay. In the 1970s, which is what you hinged it to in this conversation when I asked you what time feminism started infusing women into the workforce and the she economy began, you did say that. In the 1970s, the thing that you actually think that was magical that happened is called the Quiet Revolution. That's what you're citing. Claudia Golden's work, which, by the way, I chatted to her before this conversation. She loves your book, by the way. Claudia Golden discovered and coined the term the Quiet Revolution, which in the late 1970s, there was a revolution, not in an infusion of women in the workplace in the 70s. That was the same since the 40s. It's been a consistent progressive trundle up. What was different is women's relationship to work. Pre the Quiet Revolution, work was temporary, acute, and low-skilled for women because they understood they would have to go home and take care of kids. After the 1970s, they went, I think I could get an education and get long-term career prospects. So that's what's changed in the 1970s, that you're blaming all of the economic downturn, which I agree, there's a lot of economic problems on, which is not feminism. The 1970s, the economic problems that started there is connected to the gold standard and the Triffin dilemma.
All right, we can kick it back to Rachel. Both speakers have been told by the audience to shut up. So, Bob.
At first, she was referencing, I thought, the Quiet Revolution in Canada, but there is also something in the United States.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what she's talking about, if it actually matters.
It doesn't change Rachel's
doesn't.
argument
It doesn't.
at all.
No,
She's
no,
not
not at
addressing
all.
her argument.
No. She's just throwing more ping pong
It's
balls.
starting to piss
up
me off.
Yeah.
I
mean,
really want to know, and not because
Yeah,
I'm just on Rachel's side. I am a little biased, but I would love to know a liberal's response to what are we going to do about the low birth rates. I really want to know what they think.
Right. And they're not dealing with that.
And I'm not hearing nothing. Somebody please answer me.
Bob, if you can do me a favor, come to the front, is the next time someone does something like that, we're going to take them out of here, regardless of which speaker they're saying it to. All right, Rachel, 2 minutes.
So it wouldn't matter to me and to my argument whatsoever if Martians came down in 1910 and told the women to go join the workforce, and that's when it happened or how it happened or why. It doesn't matter to my argument one bit how, when, or why. It just matters that in every nation on planet Earth, when you send all the women into the workforce in huge numbers, they stop having kids. And what happens is what happened to Russia, what happened to China, what happened to South Korea, which is you don't have a future anymore. There is no next generation to continue on. There is no future if you don't show up for it. So if you think you can continue this first world industrialized type of economy that you moved here for because you love the United States, you said we have problems, I agree. I'm not blaming like economic problems on women. I'm saying, well, it's extremely inefficient and it's basically all propped up by men's tax dollars, as I proved in my opening. But it wouldn't matter. Like I could just grant everything you're saying. It wouldn't affect my argument whatsoever because we still have this problem, which is, do you want a future with human beings in it, or do you want more crumble cookies and more psychologists and more interior designers at the cost of a future generation that can maintain first world infrastructure and complex systems that feminism relies on?
Gotcha.
I want you to answer that question.
Please answer it. Let's see if she answers. Oh, goodness sakes.
So if your theory of everything, of all these problems that you've outlined, and I agree, a lot of these are legitimate problems. If your theory of everything is to put it at the feet of feminism, as you did in your intro statement, I'm going to say to you, I think things are probably a little more complex than you're giving it granted for. For example, as we've already agreed, although I think you forgot, it's not when you send women into the workforce that birth rates decline, it's education, as we've already talked about. But again, a really big kink in your armor for that narrative is that Gulf states don't have feminism, but they do have declining birth rates. And they don't typically let women broadly participate in the workforce. So what's going on in Gulf states? And the major difference is women getting education. Now, if you want to say that women getting education is feminism, I guess my question would be what your prescription is, that we just don't educate women at all. Because when you want to talk actually about economy, I would totally grant to you that men are the power engines of an economy in every single country. And I think that that's awesome. And I think that it's sad that men, I think oftentimes don't get the credit that maybe you deserve for their ingenuity into the GDP engine. But the reality of economics is that what matters most for a country is that you are economically competitive against other global nations. Would you agree that the relative competitiveness is what matters when we're talking about
these
GDP?
Words have to do with anything?
Okay, so
Answer the question.
I'll just grant everything you said there. Simone de Beauvoir famously said in an interview with Betty Friedan that if we allow women the choice, most of them are going to want to stay home and have babies. I'm paraphrasing. Which is why she said we can't allow that. We shouldn't allow that. We should tell them that they have to go to work, which is what the CCP did. That's what the Soviets did. That's what a lot of the Asian nations have done. They've said, like China had a one-child policy because they were like, you ladies need to be working, right? What we see every time is that birth rates crash and those governments have to correct course. All of them have had to try, and what happens is it doesn't work. You've created an economy that depends on two incomes, that depends on women working, like you said. If it's the most important thing to be competitive in the global market, and these countries are having all their females work, then we got to do that too. And what I said in my opening is we're trading long-term stability for short-term gains, and it's coming back right now to bite us in the ass. So, yes, it's very complex, but how do we make babies? And what are we educating women for? Like, when I say education, I have no college degree. I went to cosmetology school, yet here I am with a best-selling book, debating on a world stage, doing all kinds of things, but I did it after raising 5 human beings that are going to go off into the future and contribute. So I'm not now, nor have I ever been making the case that women can't be educated. I'm self-educated. We have the internet now. We have more access to information than ever before in history. What we don't need to do is send women to a university, saddle them with an average of $60,000 in debt, expect them to start a career, and then
10
they don't
seconds.
even start a family until they're 31 and it's almost too late.
Sure.
That's backwards.
So the reason why people invest in early on education is it dominantly comes from, again, capitalism and modernization, because what you do early on in life is going to have the most net returns, right? Anybody who knows anything about investment knows this, right? If you, as a young person, invest in education early and you are guaranteed a higher income, that will have net returns for your whole life longer. The reason why men and women are choosing to get married later is, frankly, because of what we've taught them with the Protestant work ethic and being good stewards of their family and their children. The reality is, I'm super happy that you've been really successful, right? You and Andrew are world level. You've got, I think you have a massive income at this point, right? That, your story isn't everyone's story, and it can't be, because not everyone can be a best-selling author or a world-traveling debater. The reality is that a lot of women who opt for the postponing education typically never go back to it. They never actually end up achieving, and it's really, really hard, actually, to be 36, no background of education, you haven't worked in years, to try to vie for now career prospects that will be sufficient enough to fund you and your child. I agree that the dual income issue poses the biggest issue for families, and it poses a problem for men and for women. And the reason that that's happening isn't feminism at all. It's runaway inflation, right? It is dominantly low, it's called the K-shaped economy, right? You have people who are lower income, they have less ability to negotiate wages because it is actually more profitable for businesses to offshore manufacturing because of the Triffin dilemma. If you can build a $2 toy and you can build it in Vietnam for 50 cents, but in America, because workers are more educated and expect higher income and their dollar is worth
10
more,
seconds.
you unfortunately have to offshore it. It's more effective. That's why manufacturing left. It's not feminism.
Well, a lot of early feminists wrote a lot about how once we achieved full Marxism and communism, because feminism is, there's a capitalist side. That's what my first book was about. But the second one is about the Marxist communist side, which wanted to destroy the family so that we could have women workers and we could have communally raised children where everybody's loyalty is to the state. And nobody can pass down private property or anything like that. When you send all the women to work early and you tell them they have to go to college and they invest all of their fertile years, those feminists over 100 years ago saw that this was going to be a problem, and they said, in the future, our main obstacle is going to be biology. We're going to have to overcome biology. We're going to have transgenderism. We're going to have artificial wombs. We're going to need some way of dealing with the demographic cliff that's caused by pushing mothers out of motherhood and into the workforce, because you can't do both. Motherhood is not a nights and weekends gig that you do when you have time and you're not at work. It's a full-time job that deserves full-time attention, and there's never going to be a way around that unless you do want everybody to do the Dave Rubin thing and, just buy designer babies, and we'll just outsource wombs, we'll outsource daycare, and by the way, who's doing that? Just other women. So for you and I, if we want to have kids, our privilege of going to work means some other random woman who doesn't care about our child is now going to be raising them for 11 or 12 bucks an hour. What about her? Is that liberating and empowering for her? Is it liberating and empowering for me to spend all day at work and not see my child take their first steps? Or does it make more sense to tell women, hey, look, you can do a lot in this life. There's a lot of living after 40. But, focus on family first. Find your husband, build your family, grow together. Your husband's income will grow as your family grows. And then after that, there is a ton of stuff that you can do. There's all kinds of other options.
Feminism is such an evil lie because it convinced women who were in control of had a total monopoly of the next generation. They could convince kids and get together and convince them whatever they wanted to. And feminism has convinced them. No, you shouldn't control the next generation. You should go work for a random man. That's crazy to me. You could indoctrinate the next generation to be whatever you want them to be. But instead, nope, go work at a company that doesn't care about you. Well, that's what? How does this make sense to people? We had a comment.
About her comment about education. Education doesn't always guarantee a higher income. It's a lot of educated people who are struggling.
Yeah, absolutely it doesn't. And in fact, education a lot of times is a scam because you see a lot of women who are going into college and they're getting a basket weaving degree or a degree in liberal arts or a degree in something like therapy or some lame degrees that they never use, and you'll see them working at Starbucks 2 years later. And you're like, "Yo, you got a master's degree in psychology?" And you find out that a lot of these degrees are scams because colleges know women feel like a degree makes their status go up, and it doesn't. And so they get these lofty degrees owing sometimes $100,000 in fees to these schools, and it doesn't make their life any better, and they don't even go into whatever they got their degree in. And so it's a scam, man. And the whole world is being scammed. I got a degree and I don't use it. Barely use it.
Got some more comments
Go
on
ahead.
this. So, an education doesn't always mean intelligent either.
That's right. We prove that because
Yeah.
look at the
Mhm.
idiots that
Right.
these
Mhm.
colleges are producing.
Yep.
They can't even let somebody. Remember, Charlie Kirk used to go to these colleges and they would run him off because they couldn't deal with anything offensive. They would plug their ears and scream. And look, these people are insane. And you talking about getting a college degree as if it makes your IQ go up. It's plenty of people who are too smart for college, meaning that they found a way to make money without even going to college. Those people are the true geniuses of our time. Look at a person like Elon Musk. These people don't need college. They're innovators, they're creators. They don't need somebody to tell them how to do it. But we have convinced ourselves that getting a piece of paper, a college degree, makes you magically more educated. I've talked to several people, especially black women, who be having so many college degrees, and you debate them, and they don't know. Even if you tell them you're point out Ukraine on a map and where Russia is, they have no idea with a full college degree. If you tell them, hey, we're about to, we have the Senate and we got the Congress, we got legislative, executive, judicial. They don't know anything about that. They don't know how our government works. They don't know, the vice president's name. They don't know the leader of the house. They don't know none of this. So it goes to show you, you can claim to be smart. You don't even know who's in control of your life. So get out of here with all this I got a college degree crap. You can play this.
Starting to sound like a Marxist socialist, Rachel. So I'll be the first to grant you that the way that America has its orientation towards mothers, particularly within like capitalism and the way that we, for example, don't give them any maternity leave. I think in many states it's like 2 weeks here, which is crazy, right? There's very little tax credit incentives to make having a family more affordable for the common man, right? So there are many things that I think the government can and should do to make it so that family rearing is more affordable. The reality, though, that you're prescribing for people of the young girl who's at 19, stays home, gets married, has kids. Number one, the reality is that those marriages are the most likely to dissolve. It's the highest divorce rate group is young people getting married. Second of all, the reality is that that young man, he basically will have to sacrifice, if he even wants to begin to having any amount of income to be able to afford his 5 babies, for example. The reality is that man is going to entirely sacrifice his fatherhood, right? How many men here work more than 40 hours a week already?
Me?
I believe, yeah. 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 How many of you work more than 50? More than 50 hours. More than 50. Yeah, you, sir, too? 60. We got an option. 80. Okay. Yeah. Men work so much They work so much, and your prescription is that they miss their childhood's first steps. They miss talking to their kids. They miss fatherhood because they're attached to their GDP output to provide for their family because mom shouldn't work and shouldn't work for an economically viable option. That's ridiculous, right? That's actually telling young men, abandon your children for the next 10 years until you've made it. It is.
All right.
What is she talking about?
I agree. That's very bad.
Pause
Very
it,
bad.
Because this shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what a man and a woman is. A man, the way he shows you he loves you is by working and getting something to show you your value. For instance, we look at this, and this has been psychology throughout all human existence. When the reason why we buy our wife a shiny rock is because that shiny rock is worth a lot, and it shows how much we love them and want them to be a part of our life. Now, you may agree with it, you may disagree with it, but a man works. The way we give of ourselves is we put our body in danger and under very strong scrutiny, under harsh environments. We will go out and carry rocks if that's what it takes. That's how we show our love. A woman does the same thing in a different way. She is nurturing. So she will put her body through pregnancy after time after time after time. Women will have 6, 7 children, used to, and put their body through that rigorous 9-month situation where they are carrying a baby and giving of their own self, and they show their love for their husband and their family by doing that. They even produce food naturally. So it goes to show you the difference. A man protects as the woman nourishes. And to think, oh, well, we're asking men to do what they've always done. Yeah, if men don't do it, society will die. If men don't uphold the infrastructure, whether it be power lines, whether it be grids and power systems, whether it be nuclear energy, whether it be our water filtration systems, whether it be building and sustaining houses, homes, and buildings and roadways, men, if they don't do that, society will crumble. We have to do that. We can't just say it's some jobs that require you to work 60 hours a week. And guess what? As men, if we don't do it, who gonna do it? Women? You could say, oh, that's too harsh, and you're expecting men to be away from their children. If we don't, society will die. Men have to think like that. Women have the luxury of being like, you know what? I don't feel like going to work today. I'll just sit at home. You can do that. Men can't. Oh, please play the video before I lose my mind.
Bad for Rachel to do to men.
All right,
I've
hold
miscarried
on,
twice,
hold
but
on.
nice try.
Relax.
Didn't stick as well as you hoped it would. Hey.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah,
We'll give you 2
not
minutes.
So-
All right, in the back, keep it down.
Are they going to be exited or just the ones that are heckling the other way? I mean, he said weird stuff about my children. It's kind of weird.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, he made some comment about me not having children.
Bob, can you find him?
Listen, we don't need to make any of this personal, guys.
Yeah.
Totally unnecessary. I
All right.
care about
Help
the
us
arguments and the
find,
worldviews.
I
folks,
miscarried, but thank you for your concern. just
help
so you know.
us
She's trying to
find
make
that
him feel so
person.
guilty.
We're gonna walk him out.
I think he had said how many
Is-
children do you, how
folks-
many children do you have? I
Sorry
miscarried.
about that,
I miscarried.
Kyla.
Okay,
I
we're
honestly,
good. Yeah,
I
it's sad.
I
It's
thought it
very
was like
sad.
they were agreeing with you. I didn't hear what they said, so
play it up.
I agree with you.
Man.
Yeah, folks, don't bring up people's families. And again, if it's, I want to be easygoing, so if it's like something playful and you agree or something, like I'm not gonna flip out. But if it is malevolent toward one of the speakers, and we're just gonna take you out right now.
I don't
so,
like heckling, but she trying to
who's 2
beef it
minutes?
up like
Go
it's
ahead,
something
Rachel.
it's not.
So Elizabeth Warren, of all people, wrote a book called The Two-Income Trap. And there's a reason why you could still, post-industrialization and post-technological revolution, have a janitor who could support a family of 6 or something like that on a single income, and now you can't. Yes, there's lots of economic factors, but the biggest one, and the one that's different than every other economic downturn throughout all of history, is that when you push, and this is, proponents of feminism actually say this. They say, oh, it's great when you send all the women and the moms to work, you get this much higher luxury standard of living, you get a higher GDP. But they'll also admit that this does create a reliance on that. So we're building sectors of the she economy around things like education. Women dominate healthcare and education over every other type of job, and then everything else is like cottage industry stuff like Etsy. Like I have an Etsy shop and I have a brownie shop. You guys see like the 5,000 different cake and cookie shops that are in every single mall now. It's like, how many of these do we need? So
basically being a mom.
We started offshoring all of our, manufacturing and all of that. This is all bad stuff, but it was made possible. It was made possible by pushing all the women. Now we have all this new labor. This was what the big industrialists of the Gilded Age did. Get the women into the factories, pay them cheap labor, like you said. This was the beginning. Then you pass the income tax. Now we're taxing 2 people in the household instead of just 1. Then we pass compulsory education systems. Now you have to send your child to public school, and you have to pay the taxes for that too. So the net result of all of these things coming together and creating this new great society is the daddy is your government now. Yep. Or the government's your daddy now. Sorry, I switched it. The government's your daddy now, and all those men who just raised their hand who work 50, 60 hours a week, how many of you would prefer your wife to go to work and your children to be raised in daycare so that you can work less?
None.
None.
Of course not.
Exactly. So, again,
they'd prefer to be home with their kids as well. I suspect they would probably prefer to be able to know your kid's first words. You don't want to watch your kid walk for the first time. You don't want to be there. You just want it on film footage because you're at work.
Andrew worked 60, 70-hour weeks for 12 years and still was a very integral part of the kid's life.
Well, the issue is it's not a critique of dads and saying that you guys are bad dads. I think you guys are probably excellent dads who love your kids. And in fact, you're working to provide for your kids. Yes. But this idea that mom stays home and dad works, it is denying you guys the ability to spend time with your children. You are trading it. Do you know what the number one regret of all men in hospice? Do you know what the number one regret is of all men in hospice? Not spending enough time with their kids. It is. And the reason why is because they are told, particularly from this side, that you're not a good enough man if you're not solely providing for your family. Even though the reality is that the corporate elites at the top have made it damn near impossible for you to do so on one income. What is upper middle class right now? I think it's like $93,000 in certain states. That's a lot of money, right? A lot for one person. And the reality is you guys have almost no negotiating wage power, mostly because we're flooding things with like reduction of jobs through AI, and also because, again, of this expectation that you are paying the cost of fatherhood, so moms get motherhood. And I don't love either of these trade-offs. What I want is a situation where families can flourish, but it's not feminism. It's not some simple, small thing. It's so much more complicated than that. And if we don't have the real conversations about the people pitting us against each other while they're raking in millions and billions, trillions, I think now, at the top, we're never going to solve this issue. We're just going to keep pointing at men and pointing at women and being like, it's all each other's fault. It's like, it's not. It's like, it's bad antitrust law and a K-shaped economy that's fucking with all of us. I agree with the problems you outline. It's not good. It is a problem, but it's not feminism.
All right. So you might remember in my opening how I said that 1/3 of all American men are not in the workforce. It's a historic low male participation rate. Do you know why? It's not just automation. It's that most of these men have no prospect of marriage or family that they can see. And so they don't see any point, and they're going to stay at home and live in mom's basement and play video games where they can at least pretend to be winning the game of life. Men need challenge. They need to be able to go out into the world and overcome and become who they are. That's what being a man is. And when you send all the women to work and tell them, don't get married, that's dangerous, you'll get abused, which, by the way, is a total myth and a complete lie. All we did with no-fault divorce was shift the pool of abuse from married women to women living with their boyfriend. You are 40% more likely to be abused in a cohabitative relationship than you are if you're a married woman. And what has happened is there's no true solutions. This pie in the sky, like, oh, we'll just have UBI and socialism, and then everyone can stay home with the kids, and everybody can just work part-time. Again, if you value this first world, like, high standard of living, that's not going to happen without the men that go out there and make it happen. And everything you enjoy about this first world standard of living was built by men who were willing to risk death to get the girl and have the family and go out there and risk something and build great things that took multiple generations to build for their future, for their children. And if you're not going to give them children and you're not going to marry them, they have no incentive to do that. That's where the problem is. And you still haven't addressed it.
Sure. So, lots to tackle there. 1/3 of men are not in the workplace anymore. Isn't the GDP still going up? So if men are the most important for that, and they're the highest output, and women are filling in all those spots, why is our GDP still increasing while men's workplace participation is decreasing? Is that maybe because women are able to also be efficient in the workplace potentially and accommodate for some of these things?
We're not doing the 2 minutes anymore. No, there's a lag. There's a lag with birth rate too.
I'll defer to you, Rachel, because
Sure. Well, I'll just answer this one quickly. It's something that a lot of people don't understand about demographics. You can have below replacement rates for quite a long time before you all of a sudden hit, that's why they call it a cliff, because it'll look like, oh, and this is why people say, oh, we're actually overpopulated. There's too many people, and the population is still growing. It's an actual delayed thing where it keeps growing, and then all of a sudden it goes bam, and it hits like this low. And again, I have graphs on my phone I wasn't able to put on there, but if you look at Russia, South Korea, China, places that have tried this, that's exactly what you see with their birth rate. It'll go up, 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 and then it'll sharp downturn, and then they try to get it back up, and it never recovers.
The reason for that is because we have generations. And so if you have a whole generation and they were all born within 10 years of each other, once they hit that 80s mark, where they hit up to 80, they start dropping like flies. I hate to say it, but it's life. So we, in our church, if you have a church and everybody is around 75, 80, in about 10 years, you won't have a church. That's how it goes. So what happens is you got it makes it look like it's a bunch of people on the planet. But if 10% of those people are at a dying age, when that time period, that 10-year window of them hitting that 75 to 85 years, most of them won't survive that 10-year window. And so you see, bam, 10% of your population gone. What's going to happen? Then the next 10% is up. And here's what's happening. This is just math. So if that's 10% is gone, then the next 10% is up, and they're gone, and the next 10%. And every generation, you have less and less kids. What's going to happen after 4 or 5 generations of death? You don't have enough to replace those jobs and have that information and that knowledge that came from that previous generation. They're just gone. And that's a huge problem, especially in places like Japan and Korea. Go ahead.
So it's like a snowball effect. So yes, GDP is still going up for now. We have maybe 30 to 50 years before we hit serious trouble that we might not recover from for like many generations.
Maybe. I'm sure you don't have a single source for that claim.
I
but that's
just
fine.
said, look at South Korea, look at China, look at Russia.
Well, that would be
They
great if
have
you would
not
tackle the
recovered.
Gulf states. But again, a really big problem with your narrative
Gulf
that you're
states are
pushing here,
behind us,
a big
though.
problem with the narratives that you're pushing here is that the Gulf
only are
states
they
are
behind
not
us,
letting
but they
women
still
participate by and large. They
affected
are
by
getting
feminism
increasingly
as well.
educated, and yet their birth rate is still declining. So
Yeah, they're
women
like
not
70
taking all
years
these jobs.
behind us.
I do
And their
wanna-
GDP is booming and growing because, to be honest,
Because they're 70 years
I do-
behind us.
No,
They'll
it's-
have
I
this
do wanna-
problem.
I will tell you
century.
why
I do
it's
wanna-
booming. The reason why it's booming is because rather than allowing women to participate in the workforce at all in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait, what they do is mass migration. They bring in a whole bunch of people, particularly from like Trinidad and Tobago. They bring in all of these low-wage workers that they treat as second-class citizens to prop up their
you're talking about
economy
slaves.
so that
That's
they can
true.
keep doing these things. So if you want to get women out of the workforce, you are going to have to fill it with something else. And it's not just going to be just men. The reality is, especially if it's a 50-year problem, you're creating an acute crisis where you will absolutely need to just bring in way more mass migration to replace all of this. But that's just the reality of what you're prescribing for people, right? So again, birth rate going down, I agree. Not great. We should probably try to fix that. But the conversation is about feminism, and you keep insisting it's feminism's fault. But again, the Gulf states easily demonstrate that it's not. Nobody looks at Kuwait and Qatar and goes, wow, the bastion of feminism. Nobody thinks that, obviously. So your narrative runs into immediately counter-competing information. You talked about manufacturing. Again, manufacturing didn't get crushed because of women's push into the workforce. It got crushed by the Triffin dilemma. The US has massive trade deficits. Everyone knows this. So in this situation, when the US dollar is the global currency, everyone wants to bring business here because it's like the hot spot. It's the best place to be, and the American dollar goes far. Manufacturing gets crushed because American workers want higher wages because our cost of living is higher, because everyone's bringing their business here and everyone's infusing cash all the time. You have to deal with the real economic issues that are causing the issue, not just blame feminism.
Okay.
Rachel, you got 2 minutes as well.
I'll try this one more time. I'm not blaming every economic problem on feminism. I'm blaming one economic problem, the only one that matters, which is demographics.
Gulf states.
There's a lot of different, they still have
feminism.
above replacement because all the women
They
aren't
don't.
working.
They don't. They're under replaced.
I do the same way that
They are
Rachel didn't interrupt you on the
behind
last
us.
one. I want to give her the same.
The whole world is going this way. So all the countries that are still above replacement, which is only a handful, are trending down. And when those people, so you said immigrants, you're right. Saudi Arabia imports their entire workforce. We're trying to do that in the West. And what happens? Number one, all the places we're trying to bring immigrants from are now getting below replacement as well. So you're running out of other people to bring over. But two, when you bring those people over from those cultures where there's no feminism into the West, within one generation, their birth rate drops to as low as the native population in the West. So you bring someone over from Pakistan where the birth rate is still like one of the highest in the world. You bring them to the UK where there's feminism. You send their daughters to college and send their daughters to the workforce. They also only have 1.5 children per woman. So no, my claim, you're strawmanning me again. My claim is not every economic problem is caused by feminism. Of course not. But the one that is caused by feminism will be the only one that matters, because if there's no people, there's no future. And you still haven't told me how you're going to combat that. How are you going to have your first world feminist utopia where the men and the women both work part-time, everyone gets to stay home, however we're going to work that, everybody gets to follow their dreams and do what they want?
I think that's called a straw man.
How do we get to do that with below replacement birth rates?
Yeah, we need
if
to solve
women
birth
are
rate.
working, they're
second.
not going to have babies, and that's the only part of my argument that matters.
Sure, yeah. I've talked, so I can
Give it
repeat
back
for
over
you.
to Kyla for 2 minutes.
I've responded to this multiple times, which again, declining birth rate is not feminism. It is modernization. This is why Saudi Arabia, as it modernizes, has a decline, which, by the way, is below replacement. Saudi Arabia's is like 1.7 right now. So no, they're not replacing themselves. Birth rate decline is because as you modernize and give people more education, they choose to postpone marriage and they have less children as a result of it. It's really that simple, but that's not feminism. That is actually education, that's capitalism, and it's kind of the Protestant work ethic, because if there's any system that tells you delay gratification, hustle and work hard, make sure you're a steward of the future, it's probably something like a capitalist system with economic incentive to grow, and a Protestant work ethic that says work, work, work. That's what you're actually contending with here. Does feminism have impacts on certain things? Yeah, I think it's made women particularly significantly more choosy in like their partners, for example. But if you look at these bad college women, for example, they're the group getting married more than anyone else since 2010. They are the highest population to get married. Their marriages last longer. They have a divorce rate that's way lower than everyone else, by the way. Their children are more successful. Their children contribute to the economy significantly more. I'd love to get those ladies having children more too. Let's invest in more technologies to kind of help them increase their window of IVF, but I'm sure you're opposed to that, right? There's all sorts. Let's get tax credits. Yeah, let's laugh at it. You guys want to solve the birth rate problem unless you actually have solutions that are about modernization, because your actual enemy here today isn't feminism, it's modernization, and we're never going back to monkey. So you may as well give up on that one.
Okay, so first of all, you said it's a capitalism problem along with a modernization problem. That doesn't explain how communist China and communist Russia had this happened to them first before any capitalist nation. Because in communism, it was, yeah, have the babies, but mainly go to work because we need to fill the factories and everybody needs to be a proletariat worker, right? They experienced this before capitalist countries did, and to the biggest degree. So it can't just be capitalism. Second of all, telling women to wait to have children because IVF will be there, people who say that haven't looked into IVF and how abysmal the failure rate is. First of all, it's massively expensive, and even if you completely subsidized it like they do in Israel, it's horrific to put women through. Have you ever had to inject yourself with a crap ton of hormones and go through all the things that you have to go through for IVF? It's miserable.
Yes.
And if you wait until you're 40, it has a less than 10% success rate. About the same as conceiving naturally. It doesn't work. So telling women to wait for IVF is cruel and unusual punishment. It's a horrible idea.
I think that's called a straw man. Yeah, that's a great.
There's something that needs to be said too about ideologies do produce more children depending on what part of ideology you or what ideology you uphold. There's a reason why atheists have less kids. Here, I was looking this up. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, super patriarchal. They have the most children. And Muslims tend to have the most children. Super patriarchal, super man-led, super anti-feminist, both of them. Protestants and Catholics are right around the national average of 2 children. Atheists and agnostics are the least likely to have children at all. Why is that? Could it be that the ideology of atheism and feminism tells you it's all about you? You don't live for anything outside of yourself. Be a boss, babe. Live for your own pleasures. That's why. So when people act like ideology isn't having an effect, if that wasn't the case, then why is it statistically atheists and feminists have the least amount of children? And it seems even in these harsh times, the Latter-day Saints and the Muslims have the most children. Explain that to me. Why didn't it affect them as much as it affects the atheist? We do have to get rid of feminist ideology. It is a cancer to America. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. What did you call that? I think we call that a straw man. Because yeah, of course my solution that I've outlined isn't just wait for IVF. In fact, one of the things that I think most importantly has to happen is a college level radical reformation, right? The idea that to just like work in mid-level HR, you need a bachelor's degree is fucking crazy. I'm sorry. There's no world that you need to be like Aristotle and, back of the day said that doesn't matter. What you need is more technical schools so that people can get into the careers that they actually want, that are economical, that are pushing our GDP. All these fluffy industries, by the way, are what makes our country dominate the world. So careful what you insult there, okay? These fluffy tech jobs, by the way, sitting there, what's more like fluffy and soy than sitting and like working on a computer? I don't know. I feel like men should be sweating, right? By your mantra. I love men sitting on computers, okay? You guys go off, kings. What you actually need to talk about here is a radical reformation of the education system, which if you want to get on my leftist craziness, join me over here, okay? I'm down for it. If you want to talk about women getting maternity leave and dads getting pat leave and it being required by the company to pay for it and not the government, I'm all down for it. I want moms to stay home for like a year. I want dads to stay home for at least 6 months to a year. It's tradable between the two. I think that's awesome. Norway does it, and it's fucking awesome, by the way. Also, if you want to know, before you laugh about it, the childhood outcomes of children whose parents get mat and pat leave, you might want to guess it's really fucking good. Yeah, they're really successful children. So
like
I want to deal with the birth rate issue just as much as you do.
I'm not going to even be long. Why is she talking like she's very annoying? What is she talking like this for? Is this Adderall? Is that what that is?
It could be the Red Bull too.
It's not fentanyl. Yeah. It could be crack cocaine.
Something.
What is going on here? Play this.
by radicalizing the speed of getting people from education into it. I think the tax that we put on the young in America is insane. I want boomers to stop just gobbling up all the wealth at the top and then holding on to their assets so that it's not there for anybody else. And I think the moment you make life affordable, so it's not $45,000 to have a baby, suddenly people want to have kids a lot more. That's going to be my guess.
Yeah, so this is a math problem, which is why I started my opening with all those infographics for you, because you cannot subsidize your way out of this problem. In order to be able to have enough,
private, but okay.
We're not Norway. This is a very large country. And
Well, I said private institutions would cover it. Well, you at least deal with what I'm saying. Or you can strawman. That's fine. We're doing strawman hour now. Go ahead.
You can't subsidize your way out of this. You can't just, we'll just pay for people to be able to be parents. We'll just give them infinite time off so they can spend more time. I already explained this is a math problem. When you have 1/3 of men in the country not even participating in the workforce, your social safety nets are already about to collapse. You cannot add paid family leave and have everybody working a part-time job and subsidize college for everyone. This is what started the problem. The smart countries that are going to still be here and are going to be dominating in the future, I would wager, are the ones who are going to prioritize producing actual goods, including things like food, their own power. They will have energy independence. That's all male-dominated industries. The smart countries are going to say, hey, ladies, here's some incentive for you to stay out of the workforce early on in life. Have a family. We're going to make women staying home and raising their own children the affordable thing, not some kind of weird government subsidy where mommy and daddy both work, but you get a bunch of government subsidized time off for like the first year or two of your child's life. I don't know if you know this, but they live longer than a year or two. They still need you when they get older. So
my died young, unfortunately.
It would be a lot smarter, rather than to just double down on all the shit that has caused all the problems, to say, maybe this was the wrong approach, and maybe looking into the future, we should prioritize long-term stability and make families independent of the government, rather than continue to double down on government's your daddy policies.
Gotcha. So speaking of fluffy dream worlds, oh my goodness. Honestly, Rachel, I want to live in your fan fiction utopia too. It sounds fucking awesome. How are you going to do that though? Because it seems like, you know, if you want your economy to be successful and booming, it seems like the countries who are best at it went, well, we definitely want all people who are best at human capital to be in the spaces that they're most efficient at. It seems like, you know, we've done things like we've tried to have comparative advantages. So we go, why have one woman at home teach 2 kids when that same woman who's really talented teacher can teach 15 kids, and that other woman who is now not teaching her kids because another woman that is wonderful and that we've regularly and we trust is teaching her children, and that woman can go and do something else successful in whatever way that she would be. Maybe it's making delicious brownies, which, by the way, don't knock brownies. Okay, never knock brownies until you've tried one, right? But when we're talking about the affordability, if you're talking about the affordability crisis, how are you proposing to solve it? Because I'm putting forward real answers, like, for example, tax credits. So tax credits for anything having to do with child rearing. Make anything associated, diapers, for example. Make it tax credit. That's not the taxpayer paying for it. That means you don't have to pay extra for it, right? All these things can be helped to make it more affordable to have a children. I'm down for that. What is your fanfic utopian dream process of economy where women aren't working and aren't getting educated, but we're maintaining a competitive global GDP? What's the system for that?
Sure, I'll tell you. First of all, it's not women can't work, it's mothers should be. Mothers already have a job. They don't need a second job. The constant throughout all of human history still matters. Yes, we have modern technology now. That doesn't mean you can automate motherhood. That doesn't mean you can replace it or outsource it. We should be investing. So like I said, we have this 1/3 of American men who are not in the workforce because they don't see any reason to be. They've been told they're bad, they're toxic, they're never going to get a woman, and they're never going to have a future anyway. So just play World of Warcraft. Why not? Get on government subsidy for your ADHD and your autism, which you're all self-diagnosed with from being on TikTok all day. How about we incentivize young men who we desperately need in the trades? We need young men in the trades so bad. It's way cheaper to train them to do the trades than to send them to university. So how about instead of paying them to go to university, giving them $100,000,
you like
to
my
go get
idea.
some shitty degree?
Okay.
No.
Yeah,
you-
radical
you send them
educational
to
reform.
tech schools to learn the trades, and then imagine how much money you can save when mom stays home. You don't have to pay for a second vehicle. You're not paying income tax from her wages. You don't have to pay daycare, which makes up 25% of the average American household's expenses, by the way. You're saving like 35% just by mom staying home if dad has a great, good paying job in infrastructure and the trades, which we desperately need anyway, instead of letting Jose come across the border and do it illegally.
Man, it's so interesting, Rachel. You're so much smarter. It's really impressive. First of all, base for taking my idea.
Can't
I'm
help
glad we're
herself.
vibing over that one. Radical education reformation. We can all just get behind that one. Like, we don't even need to be mad about that. And I'm with you on that one. Okay, so it's very miraculous how Rachel, in her own divine wisdom, in her own lifetime, has arrived at a economic and societal structural system that I guess nobody's ever thought of before. Like, why hasn't anyone ever tried that? Oh, wait, we fucking did. We actually did try this thing where it's actually more economic for women to stay at home. It's not, actually. The reason why women enter the workforce in almost all most competitive global GDP is because when you increase the local labor force that is highly educated, you do better in the GDP participation. Sorry, that's just a fact. That's just a reality of human capital. We had the barring mothers. We had it from the 1910s to the 1930s. There was marriage bars. And what
you can talk about how much more money you can get, but just like in my situation as a Christian, when I'm working, I'm not thinking about, oh, we can make the most money we can possibly make. I can make more money doing all types of things than what I do now. My wife can make more money than staying at home with the children. But the reason that we do what we do is because we answer to God and we're looking for the future. Because we know to be good stewards of the children and the family and the household that God gave us, we have to take care of our household and answer to God first. And so when you think about it that way, you don't think, oh man, I'm going to send my kids to daycare because the GDP of the family household is going to be more. You often will sacrifice. And it used to be that people would sacrifice for their family. A man would say, listen, I'm going to do this harsh job. And a woman would say, I know we could make more money if we both were in the workforce, but I'm going to stay home for the sake of the children. And how do you teach that selflessness and the lack of being selfish without Christianity? I don't see it. I don't see how people are going to do this. Atheists, the reason why they don't have children is because they're selfish and their ideology is selfish. Same with feminism. It's the same thing. Be a boss babe. It's all about you. Why should you ruin your body to have children? It's a selfish ideology. There's no getting around it. If you don't change the ideology, you're not going to change the culture. And then you're not going to change society.
happened is we got into war and we were like, oh, fuck, we kind of need them now. We bring them into war, and then all of a sudden it's a proof of concept. Women can actually be incredibly powerful forces. They were the ones pushing the manufacturing. It is the manufacturing labor of women during the war that thrust America into the golden age of that economic boom and allowed us to negotiate to become the global reserve currency, which I know you seem to not know anything about economics because you poo-pooed at the gold standard changing, which is crazy bad economic theory, by the way. But just so it's clear, when America became the global reserve currency, that was like the game change. You want to know why you're the dominant country now? It's that. It's that thing specifically, because all of the nations got together and they were like, who do we think will be most reliable and stable and boom in the next coming future? And it was fucking America, baby. So this idea of, well, why don't we just try this? Thank you, I appreciate it. This new economic system that nobody's ever thought of. We did, and we moved away from it because it was more efficient to do other things.
Kick it over, Rachel. 2 minutes.
So I'm not sure that it was more efficient. As I said, in the short term, yeah, GDP go up.
Nope. not
But
GDP
at
go
the
up.
expense of what? At the expense of what?
Nope.
So,
Competitive GDP. I've said that.
Do you want to?
Well, if you're going to straw man me, do you want to talk to me or do you want to straw man me?
first of all,
It's
I think
each
you
of you-
competitive
need,
GDP.
I think you need one of
each-
those special brownies you were talking about to bring you down from the Adderall high. Because you're just
Yay,
like,
drug insults.
it's like, whoa, let's.
If you want to just go to like
do-
weird
Did
drug
you have-
insults and
How
like,
many Red Bulls did you have?
I don't
Just
know, Rachel. Can you
chill.
raise your eyebrows? Give it a try.
That was my
All right,
point.
We are.
Ever tried it before?
We are going to. All right.
Yeah.
So this
your
is.
Botox looks really good
these
on you,
are-
by the way.
What are we even
All right.
talking about?
All right.
Well, I
let's
know you
do-
a Botox, and it looks great, by the way. Go
let's-
off, Queen. I
all right,
love
Let's
it.
do a reset.
Okay.
2 minutes for Rachel. Go ahead.
Good stuff there. So
It was funny. It was for the crowd, okay? We were giving some crowd pleasers.
She can't shut up.
yes, you're a bastion of entertainment. Love it.
True.
Keep going.
That's why you brought me here.
So again, we're trading long-term sustainability, and again, none of this matters. Oh wow, you've got a massive GDP right now. Ooh wow, there's like all of this unsustainable, goofy, fluffy women jobs that I just showed you. The reason I had to have slides was to give people the visual impact of just how much of women's empowerment is subsidized by men's actual productivity. Women own 40% of businesses in the United States and produce 6% of the revenue. How is that more efficient? How is that better for the future? How does that
You only
sustain
pretend
anything?
Because small businesses
and we
don't
get to
provide
have
that
that,
much
you
revenue.
guys.
I don't know what
You
you
get
wanna
to
do.
have that at the cost of not having enough babies to replace anyone, having labor shortages, massive inflation. Like, if this is working so well and it's doing so great, why do you yourself say we have so many economic problems? Now, you don't think it's because of feminism, fine. But everywhere in the world that we push mothers out of the home and into the workforce, the birth rate collapses. And that will have to be dealt with regardless of if you love having lots of psychologists and crumble cookies and Etsy ladies and whatever.
Yeah, I can tell that you only prepped this point. So I've already addressed that. I
It's
agree
not that
birth
I
rate
didn't only
decline.
prep this point. It's the only
second.
point
I
that
do-
matters.
Well, you're right. You prepped more, and then I brought disconfirming
All right,
evidence,
we
so you had
do-
to run
we
away
do
from your
have to kick it over
1970s
to
You still
Kyla.
haven't told me
Wait,
what
we
we're
do
going
have
to do
to-
about
we
that.
do have
I've
to
given
kick it
you
over to
multiple
Kyla for
answers.
2
In fact,
minutes
you
as
borrowed
well.
some of them.
All right.
None of them solve the problem.
All right. I
It's
need
a
to do it.
gripless trilemma
Yeah, I need
all
to do
over
it.
again.
All right, hold on a second. We do have to.
Solve
we're
Rachel's
going back to
dilemma.
the.
Do you want
we're
to
going
birth
back to
rate?
the
I
2
mean,
minute,
again,
the 2 minute responses.
the one who
so,
uses a gripless
so
trilemma.
we're
You
going to
just
give
don't
Kyla
realize it.
2 minutes. Kyla, the floor is yours for 2 minutes.
Okay, awesome. So again, when we talk about so why are like women-owned businesses only contributing to like 6%? I think when you look at like booming economies, the Fortune 500, I think probably contributes like at least 30, maybe 40% of the GDP in tax receipts. So the idea that like it's all these small businesses, all small businesses don't contribute that much to government tax receipts. Welcome to the government, I suppose. When we're talking about goofy, fluffy women jobs, I agree that there's
Let
like
me
too many
answer this.
Etsy shops, but they're
Just because other people don't contribute much doesn't solve the problem as what she's saying. She's saying women don't contribute as much as you're acting as they do, and you're saying, well, other people don't contribute that much either. That's not really answering. It's like when I challenge one of my kids and I say, hey, man, you didn't clean your room. Well, so-and-so didn't clean his room either. Doesn't change the fact that you didn't clean yours. Can you answer the problem? If women don't contribute as much to the economy as they think they do, then you talking about adding them to the workplace is not that big of a deal. Men can do it without them. People talk about, what about nursing? Men can do that too. I'm tired of acting like only women can be nurses. Men can do that too, and they've gone to war with medical soldiers and everything else who had to do under highly stressful environments, all types of nursing and doctor stuff while carrying a rifle. We can do that too. And in fact, it'd be better if we did that without women, because then those women could nurture and take that type of, be out of the stressful 12-day work days and be at home with their children. That's what I would like to see. And guess what? When you take women out of the workplace, you cut that workplace number in half, which means the amount of payment that men would get would go up because the demand would go up. You take all these women out to work for us, and guess what? You have a black hole of people saying, man, we need nurses, we need this, we need HR department, we need this, and men's jobs come back. And you can pay a livable wage. Wow, we solved the whole problem. But nope, we gotta have some. Just because women want to be boss babes and adopt feminism, now we gotta have an Etsy shop where you sell bedazzled hats and sandals, and pretend you are a economic powerhouse. Now, I'm an entrepreneur. You do nails. Shut up. I do hair. Okay. And what happens if the economy go down tomorrow? Your job is the first to go. That's why they did all these articles, remember? During COVID, women most affected. Why? Because their jobs weren't necessary to begin with. We were pretending like all these hairstylists and HR departments and nail specialists and toenail departments that they were necessary for society to keep going. No, they're not. You can go months, years, and even decades without painting your nails and nobody's going to die. But you go a week without the fire department, without the police department, without the roads, without power lines, without water, without waste management. People will die. You understand that? And we just pretend like women and what they do is so necessary. It's not. What's the most necessary thing women do? Raise children. And that's not belittling them. That's actually putting them in their proper place. The most special thing my wife has ever done is take care of my children. Yes, I said mine. Come and fight me. You can play the video.
Gonna die and go under anyways, right? Sure, but the reality is that these goofy, fluffy women jobs were created by corporate infrastructure because they realized things like Ford is a great example of this, right? Ford made HR in like 1910 because big companies need it. They need managers and they need people that oversee people to make sure you keep making work. So if you're so smart in all your wisdom, you have to go to the Fortune 500. You have to go to Elon Musk himself and be like, hey, those HR jobs, really silly, not good for the economy. It's not very efficient. And I'm going to probably look at you and say, I probably know more about what's good for the economy. As I said before, it's not GDP go up, and it's never been. That's always been a straw man of my argument. It's about maintaining a competitive GDP. And the reason why is if you can't fund your military and keep up with the other countries around you, they are going to stomp on you. And that has been shown in recent history. And we need to be aware of it because we have to fund these things. We have to.
Okay. So again, I don't know how else. It's like trying to teach force doctrine to you. It just doesn't stick. You still think it's about like majorities or something goofy.
No, it's about category errors.
It's not. You just
Right.
don't understand it. But
I do.
if you don't have women, what do we need more of? Do we need more women doing multi-level marketing, selling Lululemons and Tupperware? Or do we need women having babies so that we can actually have a big military? Actually, do you remember my slide about if we didn't abort 1/3 of our babies, we'd have 45 million more people in our labor force? You don't think that's a good trade-off?
Well, my
you don't think
suspicion
that might be
that
better?
that slide probably didn't account
Just-
for the fact
are
that the
you-
women who would be having those children would be single mothers, which
Just
are
to be
also
clear, you were
contributing
done.
to the
No, it
welfare
does.
state that we were
It-
upset
No,
about.
that's
It
not
accounts
necessary.
so
Probably not 45 million.
It did. So
Probably not.
if you have, it's an average of $26,000 of lifetime earnings that women will lose when they have a baby that they would have otherwise aborted. That's the estimate from, I think, Guttmacher and then the U.S. Department of Labor.
I don't trust that.
If you didn't, of course, you don't trust them.
I've read your book, baby girl. I don't trust any of your
Their
citations.
government, it's the government, the Department of Labor is the U.S. government.
Remember
I'm
when
not
you said
pulling
Hypatia was
sources out of
killed?
thin air.
Just to be
So-
sure that
That was a fun one.
If you
she
had,
wasn't, by the way.
I do
I don't
wanna-
even know what she's saying.
all right, just to be
She's
sure that we,
spurging.
I do think we're going to go back to the 2-minute
pretty calm.
segments. So
You're not calm.
We're going to
I
go back
am
to the
calm.
2-minute segments. All right.
No.
So go ahead, Rachel. We'll put it at.
So I'm saying
one-
once again, maybe don't kill off 1/3 of our labor force.
Right.
That would probably help GDP.
And who pushes that? The word of this by single parties or
Sure,
not,
but
they're
probably
still people.
making
All right,
it
2
so,
minutes.
probably making it so that 50% of our labor force doesn't enter the workforce is also not the best comparative advantage that we can talk about. Like, I'm happy to talk to you about abortion and the problems with it and like how mothers need to be supported more in our society. I've granted you that from the beginning. That's not an assailing on my position because I'm with you that like one of the worst things that we have seen, even with like the third wave feminism, is that nobody looked at mothers and said that that thing is beloved. Nobody looked at a mother and said that that is something worth cherishing and protecting. And you can see it because of the lack of policy policy created so that women have options and opportunities. The reality is, do we need more of like babies and MLMs? The reality is, why not try to find a system where it's a little bit easier to do both?
You can't.
You can. We
Other
have
countries have tried it and it's failed massively. And
Really?
they've had
America's
over a
failing
century.
so much.
They've had
well, I could
over a
see-
century to
are
figure
you-
it out in
just to be
China
sure-
and Russia, and China has
Kyla, are you-
massive technology
Kyla,
and
are
they
you
can't
done with
figure
your-
it out.
Done with your 2 minutes, or do you? I can't tell.
I'll respond. It's fine. It's fine. This back and forth is totally fine with me. Yeah. So in the case of America, I would say booming countries that are succeeding as a result of the labor force being injected with women and basically everyone who wants to work. America is a really good example of how it is working. You know, as what my favorite feminist said, the Dow is over 50,000. Right. The economy of America is growing, and it's growing consistently. Trump is doing everything in his power to slow it as much as possible. However, it is growing, and it is, I think, right now it's still 12 trillion over China. That comparative edge matters because for those of you who are in cybersecurity, anybody here in cybersecurity? Okay, a little bit, yeah. You guys know that the main thing keeping us ahead of China in cybersecurity is we have a lot of fucking money because their tech is so much better, which is dangerous to Americans today. It's not just bombs flying over and military troops walking into China and shooting Chinese people. It's cybersecurity. It's attacks on our systems. Just recently, the Hugging Face ChatGPT thing got out. That's what's dangerous. So what you need in a competitive GDP, and your system is saying it's not working. It is working. We just need to continue to find solutions to modernization so moms and dads can have kids too. I'm with you on finding a solution to that, but your answer is pressure women not to go into work, and we tried that. It doesn't work very well for maintaining everything that your society needs, which isn't just lots of babies, because Pakistan, tons of babies, not a great economy.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Why do you want mothers with young children to be at work all day?
I want them to be able to work at home. That's a great option for them.
How many of them do you think can work from home and contribute to the necessary and productive parts of the economy?
I mean, I think HR jobs are increasingly moving to remote positions. I think like 20 to 30%.
Just more HR jobs. Everybody be an HR Karen.
Again, you can
Everybody
laugh at
work
it,
in
but
HR.
take it up with Elon Musk.
Do you think Elon
Great
Musk has
economist,
an
Rachel.
HR department because of any other reason than Title IX making women be able to frivolously sue their employers for sexual harassment?
So there can be problems
He
with
would
women
get rid
in the
of his
workplace.
HR department tomorrow if you couldn't bring frivolous lawsuit after frivolous
No.
lawsuit that I didn't get the promotion because Tommy was sleeping with Lisa instead of
actually
me
right
or
about this.
whatever
You know what
nonsense.
caused that?
Like Title IX.
HR departments cause way more problems than they actually are worth. It's a bunch of women gossiping and a bunch of women that have you seen who's seen a video of women who have a power trip because they run an HR department? We've all seen that. These Karens, these HR departments that go after men. Dude, that her solution is to have more HR departments? Because that's essentially what she said. No, what? What type of world does she want us to live in? This isn't. All right, go ahead, man.
Caused that. We
No,
did not
it started
have a
in
desperate
1910.
need for HR.
It started in 1910 with Ford because Ford realized that it had more human capital that it could manage with just its direct system, so it built HR
Do you mean the same
departments. They
Ford
did it.
Foundation that created women's studies?
Yes.
Do you mean them? Oh, that's convenient, isn't it?
Well, wait, are you really trying to tell me that corporations, by the good of their heart, are making these stupid jobs that are useless, don't help their company, don't help their stakeholders, they don't maintain their fiduciary response, they just love women so much? Oh my God, every CEO out there is just like, fuck the stakeholders, boys. We got to get women in the workplace. Find them stupid jobs. I don't know, make
If
them
you could
fold
stop the meth
brownies or
prattle,
something.
I'll respond. Like seriously, like you're going 5,000 miles an hour about absolutely nothing.
I know,
And
when
it's
you
like-
don't know anything about
it's
the
like
economy, it can be
watching a
tough when I
person
talk
on
about it, hey?
All right, I
methamphetamine
do-
just
I do
spurred
have
the
to-
fuck
It's
out.
Red Bull,
All right.
first of all.
All right,
I don't do
let's-
amphetamines.
So
Bad for my brain.
no, corporations wanted cheap labor and the government wanted more income tax. So the Ford Foundation in their own papers, which I cite in my book that you say you've read, said, let's make women working, let's support feminism, they literally created women's studies departments as a vehicle to push Marxist feminism
In the
into the
60s.
universities.
Yeah.
Yes, and to get
But
women to
HR
buy
started
in,
in the 1910s. So.
get women to buy into the idea that work and being a career woman is empowering and safe, and that motherhood is risky and dangerous and holds you back from whatever. You need to be liberated, but nobody ever asks from what? What were women liberated from? Because the only thing I can see that we were liberated from is intact structural families, our own children, and our own interests. Now we spend our lives working for corporations and paying income tax at the expense of our own relationships with our children, our own marriages, our own communities. Like, how much have we lost from sending women to work for Ford and Elon Musk and be in HR versus them being at home building communities, taking care of each other? The women used to all be home together.
Sure, we've
We're
probably
at
lost
3
many
minutes.
things.
I want to give each of you a minute and a half. That's the last of our 3 minutes of open dialogue.
Okay. Bet. So your theory of everything falls apart really hard when you get any amount of disconfirming evidence, right? Manufacturing, for example, as you tried to suggest originally, was dying in the 1970s. It wasn't. It started dying in the 1950s, again, because of the Triffin dilemma. When you want to talk about economics and why people are struggling, we have to have big girl conversations and not just be mad at the other girls and what they're doing. The reality is that we did try the model after industrialization to keep women home. We barred women from workplaces, particularly married women, the women that you would like to bar from workplaces. And the reality is that America was not competing at a large level. It wasn't a superpower at the time. And there's a reason why most Fortune 500, all Fortune 500s, have invented these things. Again, a CEO's fiduciary responsibility, and since we're doing pop quiz, that means a legal responsibility is to stakeholders. Corporations aren't going out of their way to make jobs that are useless for women because they're nice and they love feminism. That doesn't even make sense. The reality of a capitalist is they're constantly thinking about their bottom line. And if HR makes their large corporation work more effectively, that's what they're going to do. This idea of Ford and the gender studies, I'll just grant you, Ford did do that in the gender studies. I don't really care. It falls apart the moment you just think about a timeline. Ford invented HR long before they were pushing gender studies.
Seconds.
So this idea that Ford just had this maniacal plan, instead of actually, it was an economic supply response of needing clerical work increasingly
I
in
got a
large
theory about
corporations
HR.
to make these corporations more effective.
I think HR was created for women by women. And what I mean by that is it's a department of people pretending they care about your complaints and going, "Oh, really? Is that happening? We'll take note of that." And then the people making the complaints are also like, "I have a complaint and I really care about this thing." And it seemed like HR would not need to exist if a job worked with all men. I don't think HR needs to be there. If it was no women in any workplace, HR would not exist. Because men calling HR to complain would be like, dude, stop acting like a little you know what. And then any dude listening to these complaints would be like, if you don't shut your mouth, you talking about you live in an unsafe work environment and you work at a welding and 20 stories up, you better shut your little soft self up, get back to work. Yeah, it protects HR. Who is that? Corey. It protects businesses from lawsuits. And where do these lawsuits come from? Where do most of these lawsuits come from? It's not a bunch of dudes saying, man, this is unsafe. A lot of these frivolous lawsuits come because people got hurt feelings and they feel mistreated in the workplace. That's where a lot of them come from. So it's, in my opinion, it's created for women by women, man. But that's, I don't. If I had a business that I'm starting, I would never like really take HR departments that serious. I would just hire people that I knew could do their job without complaining.
I guess take it up with every single fucking billionaire. I don't know what to tell you,
Fine.
Rachel.
With that, we'll kick it over to Rachel for him. It's the final segment, 1.5 minutes for you, Rachel.
So first of all, I'm not going to be lectured on having big girl conversations by someone who hasn't accomplished even a tenth of what I've accomplished in my life. That's number one. Number two, you came in here
How much
wanting,
older are you than
it's
me?
my time.
Aren't you like 20 years
It's
older?
my time.
I do want to give Rachel a
You
chance.
gotta shut up at some point and let me talk too.
Yeah, only
You
me
came
as
in
a
All right,
here
we
wanting
do-
to
hold
have
on.
this friendly female conversation that was all subterfuge, that was all trickery,
It wasn't.
because you were the quickest
All right.
to insult me personally and
Nope.
and spurg out and go off on wild tangents. And I'm not going to be lectured about big girl conversations by somebody who is just over here having an absolute autism fit with her Red Bull or what. I don't even know half of what you said.
I can
But
tell.
here's the problem.
You definitely don't
The
know.
future belongs to those who show up for it. And we have a choice to make. We cannot have women working full-time jobs and dedicating all their lives to careerism and have them be good full-time mothers, raising the next generation of human beings above replacement level. They will continue to abort a third of every generation. They will continue to remain single and unmarried, or if they even, do have children, they're doing it single and
15
unmarried.
seconds.
This is the only question that matters. Everything else economically won't matter if this doesn't get solved.
Thank you very much for that closing. Special thanks to our sponsor, Maine First Project,
All right, that's
fighting
the
to put
closing of
Mainers
that.
first.
I
Check
think
out
they had a
mainfirstproject.org.
Q&A.
Huge thanks to Revival of the Anointed's Rule, equipping Christians to
They
fight
have
for
a
biblical
Q&A.
values through policy victories. Check out revivetheroar.org. Huge thanks to our sponsor, Apologetics
Let's
Art.
go about there.
A Muslim nation with the highest rate of inbreeding in the world.
Oh, I forgot brown people. How did I not think
No.
of that?
Are you going to sit here and say that
All right,
that
just to
lowered
be
IQ
sure-
from inbreeding is not a serious factor in
It's
their
a huge,
economic-
it's a huge issue within Pakistan. The issue is that if your birth rate dream was so awesome, their birth rate is like
Well, you
7.1.
don't have to
I do-
marry your cousin.
Well,
hate
you
to do
kind of
this.
sure.
I'm not
sure.
saying
We do
marry
have
your
to go to the next
cousin.
question.
Rachel, I know disconfirming evidence sucks for you, but you actually
No,
have to
I
deal with
just
it and
blew
not
you
just go,
out.
ma, brown people.
You
We have
just
to go to the
sat
next
here and said
question.
my birth
Is-
rate is not always
we
so
do
good.
have
It's
to
like,
keep it
no,
moving.
you're
We do have to keep
Almost
it
like
moving.
countries that
All
only
right.
invest in
The whole
birth rate
reason
and don't
is
invest in
they
GDP
are
All right.
tend to be
80
shit.
Kyla,
IQ
Kyla and
cousins.
Rachel.
Yes,
Kyla
countries
and
that
Rachel.
control
That's
women
what we
and
have
don't
to
let
do
them in
in
the
the
workplace
Q&A.
and don't allow them any
That's
There are more
autonomy
people.
are
There are more people
shitholes.
wanting to ask their
True.
questions. All
That's
right.
Islam.
All right. Next up,
Kyla, this is
I need folks just so they can hear the speaker.
You mentioned Saudi Arabia and Qatar, but from 1960 to today, Saudi Arabia's female participation rate went from 15% to over 35%, and they've delayed the time to have a first child to almost age 27. How does that not make Rachel's point?
Because again, I don't think I would look at Saudi Arabia as a bastion of it. In fact, Saudi Arabia, a close ally of America, is letting women who are very educated in Saudi Arabia, for example, participate in their workforce because it's useful for them. That's why they're letting them do it. They're, by the way, still cutting off clits, so not exactly a feminist bastion.
I mean, it
don't
makes
have to be
her
a bastion.
point,
It
though.
It doesn't
be
make her
effective.
point, because if the point is feminism is causing this problem, it's actually modernization that's
They
causing this
more
problem.
than doubled
I do
their
wanna
female
move-
workforce.
I do wanna move
and
to the
they're
next one.
educating women and pushing them into the
Look,
workforce.
if you want to take the claim that Saudi Arabia is a famous feminist bastion, you can take it.
Why
I
are
just think
you
it's
so
absurd
upset?
on
Can
face.
you-
All right.
Why are you
we-
so angry?
All right, we're gonna go to the
I'm
next
not
question.
angry. I'm
You've
laughing.
been,
All right.
you've been
I'm having a
freaking
great
out
time.
this
Saying
whole
a
time.
bastion
I got a
as
cute
a-
outfit on.
Everyone-
I'm feeling
all right,
great.
we're gonna go to the next
Feminism
question.
Itself.
Hi, sir.
What we're saying is that they
So I wanted to
were
ask you about
affected
Henry
by feminism.
Ford.
I don't know much about
it-
Henry
so
Ford.
he started human resources, you said, in the 1910s. So
I believe
like
it was 1910
1913.
that the Ford industry
In
did, yeah.
1916, he was sued by the Dodge brothers for
True.
improperly investing and not protecting shareholders, and lost that case.
Okay.
So wouldn't that kind of show that Henry Ford was not a good actor in the corporate space?
I don't know much about the case, but were they sued over HR?
They were sued over wages and improper investment,
HR?
using dividends to pay for HR.
That's a big stretch there, sir. So was it HR that they were sued over, or was he doing fraudulent behavior? Sounds like the fraud might have been a bit more of a spicy problem. Okay.
Hi, Kyla. Hi, Rachel. Appreciate the debate tonight. Juicy, as James would say. My question is for you, Rachel. You and Andrew sometimes deal with this idea that like guns are an equalizer, as in they can sort of minimize the distance between men and women in terms of the physical force they can exert.
Right.
And I know you have problems with that argument, but I can
Yeah.
pretty easily imagine a future where a technology that's a true equalizer, like maybe gene editing is just one example, could just be a reality not so far from now. So I just wanted to ask, what does that world look like to you? And in a way, does it make kind of an egalitarian philosophy or fact of life inevitable?
Does the gene editing you're talking about make it so that men can have babies?
Probably not for a while. Probably not for a long time.
Then I would say no. Will it make it so that we have women that are the same rough size and strength as men? Because if it basically, unless you're going to turn
Rachel,
women
famous
into men,
biologist
then no.
here, by the way, knows a lot about CRISPR, I'm sure. Did you know that that's what the technology is called, by the way? It's CRISPR. Yeah.
Thanks, Mrs. Turner.
Look, baby girl, you're gonna love when I go through your book.
I
Okay.
love when she educates me.
All right.
It's my favorite.
When did Hypatia? Who's Hypatia, by the way?
Who cares?
Look, I
It's in your
can't.
book.
You're like meth-spurging, and I can't right now.
I,
I would like
you,
to
go
get
if
to
you,
the
you
next
can keep
question.
like insulting me, Rachel, but
Terry,
first of all,
I'm
between me and you,
All right.
I'm mugging you
All right.
every single day.
We're gonna move.
But second
We're gonna
of
move
all,
the next question.
Who's Hypatia?
Terry,
Yeah, you don't want to answer,
What's
do
great.
you?
Yeah, so
pop
Kyla,
quiz crap
I was
that she
wondering, like,
does
what
is
is the
so-
proposed solution from feminism? Because in terms of Rachel's proposed
Can you say
solution,
that again? Sorry.
what is the proposed solution from feminism that we're going to get at least 1 million lives back into the economy for workers and all that stuff? This is what Rachel's talking about with the mathematics. We get rid of elective abortion. That's 1 million lives each year coming into America.
Yeah, a lot of those.
What's
so
the
getting rid of the
feminism
abortion
counter?
also means that you're going to have a massive amount of those lives going on the welfare state, which I think you guys don't like, actually.
It's still more
The
hate.
solution
Not
for
necessarily
birthright that I've offered a number of times is we need modernization solutions. So probably tax credits, making it affordable to have children, making it easier for moms to stay home or work at home and be economically successful. There's a lot of things that we need to try. It's not really a simple solution because it's not a simple problem anymore with modern technology. But we
pretty
should try
simple.
things, and we
Don't
haven't
murder your
really
children.
tried enough things, and we should.
Yeah, so 1 million lives a year is not worth banning elective abortion, is what
Much
you're saying.
bigger tax base to help fund those social safety nets.
Again, unless they're on welfare, which you would assume that they're going to be if they're being
No,
born to
you would
single
not
mothers.
assume that they're all going to grow up and be on welfare.
I wouldn't
Absolutely
assume
not.
all of them, but I would guess that it would probably be 20 to 30% of them because probably the women most likely to seek abortions are going to be
For a-
women in situations where they become single
For a
mothers. And so
tempor-
those
oh.
children are going to be on welfare, which is going to be costing tax receipts. So I guess your system, not so great. It feels really great when you chat GBT
All
your
right,
numbers. When you
we're gonna
actually get
jump
real about economics,
next
it
question.
kind of falls apart.
We're jumping to the next question.
I'm sure if you talk faster and say more,
so
everyone will
proud.
think you won.
Look at
I'm
her,
sure that
look
if you're
she's
just
like-
bitchy and
We're gonna
rude,
go-
everyone will
We're
think you're
gonna go
funny.
to
No, no,
James.
no, no.
Every time she thinks she made a good answer, she does this thing where she's like,
I saw that. I was waiting for her to breathe too.
"What is all this?" She's like cracked out. She's
I was searching to see if she was
What is
okay.
that?
I don't know. I don't know.
It does look like Adderall.
Yeah.
It looks like cocaine.
Well, and she did make a swiping motion,
Dude.
yeah, it was.
I mean, everybody got nervous thing. I scratched my nose,
Right.
but she's like,
but she was like she's a third base
What is
coach,
this?
you know, in
Yeah,
you know, it's
said
like,
a
you know,
third base coach.
am I supposed to steal home? What am I supposed to do,
Dude,
coach?
What in the world is this? This is something, dude. Something. She's on something.
It just seemed to happen like that.
I don't know. Maybe it just kicked in.
I don't know,
Something.
but it's
You know what?
It's
Knowing
noticeable.
her and
It's
the
noticeable.
druggies she hang with, because she hang with a bunch of druggy liberal people too. I bet you she popped something before the debate to keep her up, and it just started kicking in.
Yeah, I think so.
In the middle.
That could very well be.
'Cause
Yeah.
even her eyes and how she's in focus is a little insane.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to her picture right now. Like she's insane.
Those eyes, just
Something
ugh.
demonic is going on. Play it.
We're gonna go to James.
All right, so my question's for Kyla. So if greater, it's based off something you said in your opening, if greater reproductive autonomy predictably results in more murdered babies, what's the benefit of that autonomy
It
that
was
is
her opening.
justifying the outcome?
I don't think anywhere in my opening I talked about reproductive autonomy. I think that was her.
No, you said that
You
it's
said
better
the
if women have
predictability.
control over their
You said these things were
reproduction, they can-
predictabilities when you were
Do you
talking
think
about.
reproductive autonomy just means abortion?
Yes. To liberals, yes.
It results. Are you going to
Are you
answer
gonna answer
my
that
question? Or
question?
are you asking me questions?
I'm following
All right,
up
so
because you're talking about reproductive
you want to answer
autonomy.
the question or no?
Do you want to know anything that you're talking about? What's reproductive
This
autonomy?
is that likability problem Andrew
All
was
right,
talking
we're-
about.
yeah. There's one thing.
We're going to. All right. Let's bring it.
What in a room full of Rachel
All right.
fans? They like
Can
you
you-
more? That's crazy.
Can you,
it
can
helps
you
your
just
arguments if you're
hold
not
on.
insufferable.
All right. Sorry
I
to do
would-
this.
it's
All right, I do have to-
actually,
I
you
do
being
have to-
insufferable is
All
good
right,
for your
I do-
arguments, actually.
Just to get
That's
through,
funny.
just to
No,
get through
everybody
people's
likes
questions.
me.
That's
Just to
not
get through.
true.
I'm very popular.
Just to get
and
through people's
well-liked.
questions. Can you restate your question in a rephrase it?
Do you want to just talk about abortion? Sounds like you want to talk about abortion.
Oh my God.
Okay. Do you want to answer my question or do you want to ask me questions again? If greater reproductive autonomy results in more murdered babies, what's the benefit of that autonomy that justifies that outcome?
The benefit of more reproductive autonomy for women is that they're able to better control family planning, which allows them to do things like investing in a career and investing in better marriage status, which is why college women, by the way, have the happiest education. So reproductive autonomy allows them to decide when they go to college because they can offset having children, which is good. It also results in things like abortion, which I agree it would be great to get those numbers down, but that's why it's valuable, because it does more than just one thing.
Again, that what you just said is okay. Is
Oh, get out of here.
as
You're
a
not even keeping
benefit.
up. Get out.
Look.
We're going to go to the next question. Okay.
She's a horrible human
All right.
being.
Your mom's super proud of you, though. Well, probably not, actually.
Just condescending.
This is a PR disaster.
All right, we're going to go to the next question.
You are not
All
going
right.
to recover.
This is very important because he didn't come up rude. It's that she, instead of answering his first initial question, she responded back with a question of her own because she didn't like his question because it was a good one. She didn't like it because it put her in a corner. And so she was refusing to answer his question. Corey says, say
No to drugs.
She was refusing to respond to his question, and he had to reiterate it like 2 or 3 times, which made him annoyed. And now she want to act like she's the victim, and then she also wants to be mean. Get him out of here. Get that guy out of here. Wait a second. You could have just answered this question from the get-go.
Like she's some soup Nazi now in a debate. You know, you
Get him out of here.
you go for 1 year. It's like, what?
Like, dude, who do you think you are, lady?
We're going to go to the
It's
next
not,
question.
I can assure you.
Who would invite
Here we
you
go.
to an event
Well, we-
after the way you behave?
All right, we're going to go with
Exactly.
Jonathan's
Get him outta
question.
here.
We do have to go to the question. Jonathan has
Like
a
if
question.
you were my
All
daughter,
right,
I'd be
I hate
hauling
to
you out
interrupt
of
you
here by
guys.
your ear to
And
give
if you were
you a
my
talk
mom, I'd have a lot more
about
drama.
your
We're going to
Yeah,
jump.
behavior.
I know.
We're going to jump to the next question. Come on
Well,
up,
your mama
Jonathan.
should've.
All right, folks,
These
do need
people
you
paid
do us
to
a
come
favor
ask
if you
you
can keep it
questions.
down just so
Get
we
him
can hear
outta
the
here.
speakers and the question asker. All right, Jonathan, go ahead.
So what is the biggest roadblock to abortion, Rachel?
What is the biggest roadblock
To abolishing abortion.
to abolishing it?
Yes. So there's no more abortion ever.
Women voting for it.
There you go. Thank you.
You know what? Now I missed his question because Mr. Producer was left. Here, just press the back button, rewind it real quick.
Oh, you guys talked today.
I don't want to
For
rewind
ear
it.
to
And
give
if you were
you a
my
talk.
mom, I'd
Yeah,
To abortion, Rachel.
What is the biggest roadblock
To abolishing abortion.
to abolishing it?
Yes. So there's no more abortion ever.
Women voting for it.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay.
Feminists run away from 50-50 custody. Oh, you guys talked today about about how men work and why they don't get to spend time with their children. But feminists constantly run away from the issue that men are treated unfairly in family courts, and that here in Dallas, 95% of the time custody is awarded to women, and they take those children and they abuse men and take our children away from us in family courts. So what is feminism going to come to the table and make 50-50 shared custody the standard bills and stop voting to take away our children from us all the time?
Yeah, so I'm guessing that you're not particularly familiar with my work, right? Not everything that feminists do I think is good. And I actually think that what you're highlighting here is a really big issue, which is why when I started my work in debate, I was in men's spaces advocating for male issues. Family court planning and, for example, things like financial abortion are rights that men don't have access to that creates an unequal rights. And I think that that's an issue that we have to address. And I think the fact that fathers are assumed de facto to not be a good caregiver and therefore they get limited access to their children is a fucking tragedy. I totally agree with you.
All right.
Not at all. Kyla?
Hi.
You said something I really liked. My name's Chris.
Hi, Chris.
You said something profound, one of the best things I heard all night, actually. And I want to acknowledge it. And you stated, what you invest in early in life yields the best returns. Is it your position that women should not invest in their families when young?
Dang.
Are those returns not as valuable as serving a corporation or being a boss babe that can get fired when the boss's nephew needs a hobby?
Let's see what she answers.
Yeah, so I think what I've pretty clearly advocated for multiple times is that I want women to be able to have the option to do both, right? I've said this numerous times, and increasing technology is allowing that sort of thing, right? When I was talking in that context, that was good. That was a smart one. You were quick at that. What I was actually talking about when I said the word returns was an economic label, right? So you can like switch the definition to a different thing, but I agree that there's a tragedy that's happened where families, not just young women, but young families don't feel like they can invest in children because it's so expensive and they can't be good stewards of their future things. The reason that parents are delaying.
No, they're making a choice not to invest in children because before they did, until now they don't. They're making a decision, and statistics are proven that they're not investing in children, and they're choosing to investing in their education. That's why the average age of the first childbirth in America is like 32. So they're making a decision not to invest in their children, not to invest in their family. And Christianity, Rachel's point of view, says you should invest in your family and your children first. And she messed up because she said you invest in what you think is important from the beginning. She messed up and he caught her, and she should just say, hey man, maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. Nope. She messed up. She got checkmated right there.
Isn't because they don't think children aren't beautiful. What they're delaying for specifically is because they know that if they don't have a stable economic thing to rear their children in, they're not being good parents. And I think it's a tragedy that you're gonna yell. Hold on, don't yell at me yet.
Right,
I think
folks.
that's a tragedy, but actually engage with my words and the ideas that I'm talking about.
All right, we're gonna go to the next question.
Thanks, both of you, for coming. Taylor here. To me, it seems modern feminism is antithetical to a biblical worldview. From your earlier debate with Andrew, which I listened to, it appears you keep a fairly sharp separation between your private faith and how you would integrate that with politics, etc. My question is this: do you believe the Bible affirms the equal ontological value of men and women while also establishing a specific order of responsibility, God, man, wife, children, for example? If so, isn't this consistent to hold that a society could still follow that biblical order with men as the primary heads in voting, repeal the 19th, public life, primary breadwinner, while fully affirming women's equal value ontologically and encouraging distinct roles? This was the arrangement before the boom of feminism and seemed to sustain a strong society. And why wouldn't that be a good solution, even though it does seem far-fetched?
Okay, do you want to tackle the theological question or the like policy question first? Because there's kind of two baked in there.
Yeah, whichever you'd address first.
Okay, sure. So when it comes to like a theological question, I think one of the most important things that we need to recognize from the Bible, and most of you are going to disagree with me on this, is that it is not a prescription for statehood. In fact, it's a strong resistance to that, right? Jesus, for example, was quite resistant to being named as the Messiah and King and creating a kingdom of Israel, which is in part why the Jews wanted to kill him. So you might theologically disagree with me, but when I look at these things as far as policy goes, I think God made both of us, right? All people were made in the image of God. And I think that what God wants isn't to make didactic biblical interpretations policy, because that's not what he did, right?
Actually,
to a policy level, it seems to be the case that there is just better benefits overall, broadly for society. There are cons, but there are mostly benefits when you have a policy of allowing your human capital to have opportunity and choice. And I would argue to you, there's a greater...
Get this wrong. They say God did not come to have Christians run a governmental system. He didn't come to just make a governmental system where everybody is given a bunch of Christian laws and have to obey them because they live in a Christian country. There are some parts of that that's true, but then there's some parts of that is wrong because the way you're looking at it and your perspective is wrong. God created Christians, right? He called them to himself. Once they get saved and they come to know him, he expects them to live Christian lives. So if you live in a country that was founded on Christian principles, Christian ethics, with Christians in it, they should run the government as a way that is pleasing to God. It shouldn't be no, we're Christians, but we'll push the secular ideology stuff. We're Christians, but we'll still make it so that you can look at pornography if you want to. You're Christians, what? Yeah, but our daughters are on OnlyFans. We're Christians, but we still believe in stealing and redistributing wealth from one person to the next, even though, that's theft. Christians should, if they are in fact Christians, vote and uphold government policies that reflect that they are Christians and they have Christian values. And too many Christians are like, well, yeah, I'm Christian, but my policies and how I vote is not Christian. Well, then you're an idiot because God all wants everything to point to him. Your life is always going to be something that points to God. It's not no, I can get out of this because this is how I vote, but this is how I worship. No. Everything you do should point to God. How you vote, how you act, how you talk. So this ideology, well, God didn't want us to have a king. The king is God. We in our lives should reflect that in everything we do. You can play it.
Christian imperative, then men should be the household, which is choice, because the entire bracket of salvation is about choosing God. So why on earth do humans think that they know better than to try and insist that women can't have simple choices like where they work or whether they get to vote? I think that that's a bastardization of Christianity when we do that.
All right.
Thank you,
This
sir.
is going to be our last question.
Rachel, if your position is so attractive and so elusive, why do you need so many restrictive and regressive policies to maintain it? Because as it stands, your lifestyle would be able to coexist under Kyla's worldview, but Kyla's lifestyle would not be able to coexist under your worldview. And so I just think that if women were not able to do all these things and be able to sustain this lifestyle, you wouldn't need the restrictive policies to stop them. It just wouldn't be possible in the first
point
place.
to one restrictive policy that I advocated for in this debate?
Would you advocate for the regression of the 19th Amendment?
Yes, but only
Okay,
because universal suffrage.
Okay, well that's
So it wouldn't be just women can't vote. It would be most people.
Do you think
can't
mothers
vote.
would mothers be able to enter the workforce under your worldview?
They've always been legally allowed
Under your
to.
worldview.
Yes, they've always been legally. I've never argued to legally prevent women from working or mothers from working. I think it needs to be the culture. These things come from the culture and the religious values, not from policy. We don't just outlaw things. I've never advocated for restrictive policy changes other than we need to limit suffrage.
It's
But
pretty-
that does
voting
not
rights are
just.
pretty restrictive.
But that doesn't just limit women's votes. It limits all votes back to what the founders had framed. I think we need to return to a limited suffrage republic if we're going to try to have a republic.
You know what? Pause that.
Hi,
Because I
Kyla. My
think
name's Jay Ash.
She messed up a little bit, and I love Rachel, and I think she's a far better debater than I am. But I think she messed up in this answer because he said, if your policies are so attractive, why do they have to be restrict what people do? He's essentially, I'm simplifying it. And the premise to me is messed up because what should have been attacked is it's not attractive right now because people are attracted to the wrong things. The reason why it's not attractive for me to promote family and Christian traditional values is because people's hearts are evil. And they want to do what they want to do, and they rather have abortions, and they rather have 2 cars, and they rather have, a daughter on OnlyFans who's doing whatever and making money than they would to sacrifice and have a mother stay home and live in a prosperous Christian lifestyle, maybe with less cars and less fancy things, but you have a good family household and prepare for the next generation. The reason why they're not attracted is because they don't know any better. They don't know how good it can actually be. That's why they're not attractive. And the second thing to say, is it restrictive? What's wrong with being restrictive? I don't think anything is wrong with that. I don't think anything is wrong with us restricting bad behavior and encouraging good behavior. I think we should restrict Single mothers. I think we should restrict people who are criminals. I think we should restrict people who vote like idiots because they just want to steal money from people who have more than them. I think restrictions can be good for society. We restrict people all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. So both of his points, I would have just attacked them differently because it seemed like he got a point off on her, but he really didn't. Because she questioned him back and say, what type of restrictions do I really have or do I believe in? And he was able to point out, yes, you do restrict people because you want the what is it called? Suffrage. You want you want not everybody to be able to vote, which I'm in agreement with that. I don't think everybody should vote. That is a restriction, though. You got to admit. All right, we can keep going.
Your counter to feminism having the biggest detriment on birth rates was industrialization or modernization. I'm wondering, can you elaborate on how that makes sense when what I see, industrialization and modernization makes it easier, safer, cheaper to have and raise kids?
That's actually a really interesting question. This is the one thing that's kind of like called the paradox of urbanization, is that you're right. In many ways, we have more technologies, more supports, more welfare available than ever before. But it seems to be the case that as industries and nations modernize, birth rate tends to fall. And we see this across the board of every country that begins to modernize. And that is a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that, which is why what we have to do is go, well, what are ways that we can offset this declining birth rate so that young families feel like they can't afford to have children and then do?
All right.
Yeah, so my question is actually for Rachel. So Rachel, we heard Erudite make a lot of claims, but based on her standard, we can't actually know if anything she said was true. So if we don't have access to certain truth because she doesn't understand Agrippa's trilemma anyways, from Erudite's view, why ought we actually debate? And since we can't know who is correct, why can we know that Rachel's the one who won this debate anyways?
Well, that's true. I could have, rather than just sticking to demographic doom, I could have just presupped her and said, you don't believe in objective truth anyway, so why are you here?
So here's the thing that it seems like you guys have like never understood. If we want to talk about the Agrippas, right? Are you a methodological skeptic?
What? Say that again?
Are you a methodological skeptic?
Methodological skeptic?
Yeah.
I don't know. What
so
does that mean?
I don't care about the problem of levying the accusation of Agrippa's trilemma because I just engage with the assumption that sometimes assumptions have to be made too. We have to engage.
Oh, so you just want to start with random axioms?
No, not random, just like yours aren't random. What I've done and what you guys seem to not quite understand is I've labeled the thing that you do, what you call presuppositionalism, is levying Agrippa's trilemma against your opponents. All I've done is pointed out that just as your opponents fail Agrippa's, so do we. I just don't care because I'm not a methodological skeptic.
So, but why should we grant your starting or foundational axioms and not mine?
So that we can have a conversation and you can critique it to see if you think it makes
sense. But we're doing it
sense.
arbitrarily based off of nothing but preference.
How do you, again, all you're doing is you're levying the Agrippa's problem to me, but I would say to you, you have the same problem. I just don't care. I don't think it's interesting. I'd rather just contextually grant certain presuppositions and axioms and build from there.
We're just going to go with this.
You asked Rachel about Hypatia. So being an educated philosophy person, could you name one work by Aristotle and one by Hegel?
Sure. I don't know works by Hegel.
By the way, if I'd have known that's what she was saying, I would have answered. I couldn't understand her because she just talks like with a dry Adderall mouth, and I couldn't understand.
You're like slowing down with your age. It's a little hard to keep up.
No, I'm just like a normal person who's not on speed.
Aristotle would be the 5 dialogues.
Plato.
Next up.
Hello.
We'll stop it here. My goodness. Okay. I thought the debate was entertaining. I'll give the overall debate as far as entertainment value an 8. I've seen Rachel do better though. I don't think she did terrible, but I think she's done better. I would give her, as far as Rachel goes, I'll give her a 7. I think some of the points that she could have made were actually brought back up in the Q&A by other people. And I thought she could have made those points. And I wanted to stick it to Erudite in the way that Andrew Wilson does. Because what he does is he does not allow you to move your feet. If you say you got an answer, he makes you stick to the prompt in a way where it gets annoying almost to debate him because he's not going to let you shift. If the prompt is how is feminism better for society, he gonna be like, but how is that better for society? How? Prove it now. And if you go through a bunch of prattle, he gonna let all that prattle get back to the point. And he's gonna stay on that. As annoying as it is, you could be like, man, I kind of want to hear what you got to say to that response. He gonna be like, nope, I'm not even responding to that. You didn't respond to this point. And his debate tactics would have been very well used against Erudite. In fact, I think he's a very good debater against her because she tends to prattle a lot. And other people will get off topic, which she tries to do by throwing out all the, well, you didn't address what happened in the 1970s, and you didn't address what happened in the Middle East. And she'll take you off your square. And next thing you know, you're going down a rabbit hole that she has designed for you to lose in. And I think Rachel Wilson did a good job because 7 is 5 being average. 7 is good. Where did I think Erudite did? I think Erudite is not stupid. As much as people know to say, like, I disagree with her on everything. She's not dumb, though. She's not dumb. And what I mean by that is she has a certain amount of historical knowledge. Certain, not very well, especially when it comes to biblical stuff. She's terrible. But she has a certain amount of historical knowledge, a certain amount of geographical knowledge or geological. She has a certain amount of philosophy. She has enough to get her by with the average person. And she has Destiny's debate tactics where she'll prattle and talk really, really fast and try to shotgun a bunch of points at once. That's her tactic. That's Destiny's tactic. She took it from him. They do a show together. She definitely learned from him. She's not a terrible debater for the left. I hate her tactics, but she's not terrible, and she will bulldoze you if you don't know what you're talking about. I would give her a 5. Rachel a 7, her a 5. I think her points are accurate? No. And I think Rachel Wilson beat her? Yes. But I think that it wasn't the kill shot that I wanted it to be. So I would give it like that. If the debate was entertaining, Rachel Wilson 7, Erudite 5. I think it's not that she made good points, is that she attacked Rachel's points just enough to give liberals a reasonable doubt to say, look, she made a point. Nah, in my opinion, she didn't. But other people, I could see how they could say, yeah, she made a point. They're blaming feminism for everything, and there's way more points to be made about that. I could see how they could say that. So, I think at the end of the day, this debate was entertaining. I give it any points, Mr. Producer, before we wrap this up.
No, just other than that, it was pretty entertaining. A little sad to watch at times, though.
Yeah, annoying when you know.
Annoying.
Yeah.
And just, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, you got to give them that.
You got to give them that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, share, and subscribe if you like what you hear and see.
Yep, that's right. We up to 700 subscribers so far. It's past 700 now. So we appreciate you guys. Like, share, subscribe, like Mr. Producer said. We'll be back with the next one. And we'll have some more videos